The newly pardoned Michael Flynn has pushed on Twitter a call for Donald Trump to declare martial law because it is preferable to civil war. This website, it's called the We the People Convention, goes over all of the things Abraham Lincoln did. Is there an issue, Luke Rukowski?
No.
What are you doing? We got Luke Rukowski. He's chilling here.
We're not in martial law already. That's what I was wondering about. I wasn't saying anything. I was just waiting for you to do your own thing.
Oh, yeah? This guy causing trouble?
Yeah, I didn't do nothing.
Michael Flynn is pushing out these tweets. So we talked a little bit about this yesterday. It's the We the People Convention, where they've gone over all the things that Abraham Lincoln did. Abraham Lincoln did some messed up stuff. So aside from this, we'll go over this. We'll talk about what's going on. Arizona GOP did a very small sample size of duplicate ballots found. 2 of the votes out of 100 were flipped from Trump. So it's hard to know if you can really extrapolate that up to 2%, but that's significant in a small sample size. So they're saying we need to do more. Donald Trump put out a 46-minute video where he was basically putting out his case to SCOTUS, saying, you got to overturn this, give it to me. That doesn't seem like I don't see that playing out. We also got some statements made by Obama. The squad is mad at him. The left is saying Obama isn't left enough. We got a Staten Island bar owner just basically defied Cuomo and DeBlasio, got arrested. People are starting to stand up. You know, when they shut down people's businesses in March with this COVID lockdown, people are like, okay, I'll play by the rules. People got nothing left to lose anymore. So we're going to talk about all this. And like I mentioned, it's Luke Rukowski of We Are Change. He's hanging out.
Howdy. I'm the rabble-rouser-in-chief of wearechange.org. I like long walks on the beach. And I think I'm the only person that has ever been to the Bilderberg Group and Jeffrey Epstein's Island and talked about it. For some reason, a lot of people go, but coincidentally, they just don't say anything, which is, just
I think
weird.
you're one of there's a small handful of people outside of the wealthy creepos who's actually been to Epstein's Island.
Yeah.
That's crazy that you went there. That's nuts.
Me and Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante. So, I just did what the mainstream media should have been doing. The mainstream media was driving around boats, and they're, taking videos of the outside. And I'm like, why isn't anyone stepping in on the island and seeing what was going on there? Why was this not investigated? And we have to remember, Jeffrey Epstein was an individual that was promoted by the mainstream media. Mainstream media publications were rewriting puff piece releases by him, and they were literally promoting him. So it's just absolutely insane.
You're a crazy guy, and you're also what was it? You're Alex Jones's adopted son. Is that what it is?
I heard Putin. Putin, I think, is a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, you do look like Putin.
There's a lot of theories out there. Oddly enough, I'm not that big of a theorizer. I just like to question different things. I like to investigate different things. I like to ask questions, and I've been able to share that through my YouTube channel, which I've been having a lot of fun through. And also, for the record, I've known Tim before I think anyone even knew who Tim was. I think before anyone even knew what a beanie was. I knew Tim Pool for that long, over a decade. Started at Occupy Wall Street.
Just about a decade.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time.
I remember I went to Occupy and you were sitting with some chick and we were like talking about stuff. And then you were like, I could make a video about what's going on at Occupy. I got 50,000 subscribers. And I was like, wow, really? Yeah. Wow, crazy. That's so big.
Yeah, I remember those days, and they were incredible. And I think there was something that happened at Occupy Wall Street that really kind of scared the establishment, because we saw all people from all different walks of life, leftist, right-wingers, Republicans, Ron Paul people, a lot of people who are just, sick of the big banks, sick of the multinational corporations, sick of the politicians lying to them, not keeping their promises, and then just essentially coming out into this one small little park, and the energy was there. There were celebrities coming down. The mainstream media refused to cover it.
But it was so easy to get rid of it. All they did was they sprinkled in a little identity politics, and then the whole thing ripped itself apart.
Well, I remember you, and I think my first impression was when there was a little sub-meeting during one of the Occupy
it was
General Assembly.
A shadow group trying to take over.
Yes, there was a shadow group trying to take over. And I remember meeting Tim for the first time. And there was these communists there who were like, okay, guys, we're going to do sparkly fingers and we're going to make the Communist Manifesto the main statement of Occupy Wall Street. And I'm like, nope. And then you were at the same meeting and you're like, nope, not going to happen.
And you're like, we got to talk about this.
And I'm like,
yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, this guy gets it. This guy actually knows what's going on.
No. It was
essentially the Communist Manifesto.
So before we got to talk about this. It's going to be fun, and then we'll talk about Michael Flynn. But Ian, of course, is still sitting here.
Right.
I want to make sure we intro Ian and Lydia, of course.
I was also at Occupy, and was it one of those like back where they go to the apartment complex and they all sit in a big circle?
No, they just went
talk?
like 2 blocks away, like an alley.
Oh.
So here's what they said. They were like, initially at Occupy Wall Street, I remember there was some old people, like probably in their late 60s, sitting in lawn chairs with a big American flag. And they were talking about the banks ripping everybody off, the revolving door politics, and a need for change. It was a very populist uprising, people of all walks of life. Then these young people started coming in. One of these groups, they were saying the message of Occupy Wall Street needs to be free college and like they were like smaller class sizes, but free college. And I was like, wait, that would mean you'd have to like exponentially expand college buildings. To guarantee it makes no sense. They were actually proposing things that were contradictory, and I was like, this is going to make the whole thing fall apart. And then there was that lady who faked the seizure. Remember that?
Cecile, I think her.
I'm not going to name anybody. I don't want to get sued.
But she, it was there was a whole lot of arguments, and I remember meeting Tim for the first time ever there. And I'm like, that kid knows what's going on, and
These commies.
And I was like, essentially, that's what they were proposing.
Well, it was interesting. There was unity. Early on, they were like conservatives and socialists being like, we need to stop the power from these big banks.
It was an incredible place where people could actually talk, people could actually debate. People from all different political spectrums came together, and they were like, okay, let's actually work this out. Short-lived, but I think it was incredible because it was the first time ever there was a populist kind of uprising that the mainstream media tried to fully ignore. But because of the internet, because of individuals like you, Lorenzo, the Occupy media team, and I was there, of course, as well, documenting everything on the ground, people saw something that they weren't getting on the mainstream media that was very interesting to them, that resonated with people. And that's why we had so many different celebrities, so many different philosophers, so many different thinkers stage debates there and conversations that were absolutely rewarding.
The natural consequence of Occupy was, at least in part, Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders. Yep. You had right-wing populists, left-wing populists, sort of moderate economic populists, nationalist populists, people who just said for the people, by the people, not the elite, the establishment, revolving door BS. And so you go from 2011, eventually Occupy got dominated by leftists. But there was a lot of regular traditional liberal types, moderate lefty types. They flipped for Trump. So when you had this uprising, sort of this emergence of these populists, and then it came to political candidates, populist Bernie Sanders emerges, populist Donald Trump emerges. Well, guess what? Donald Trump is there's a lot of words people use to describe him, but I think tough is probably a good one. You can call him stupid, small hand, orange face, or whatever, but the dude is stronger than these people on the left. Yeah, and Bernie Sanders couldn't hang. So he gets knocked out. Donald Trump ends up winning.
Yes, he has that tough personality that people naturally are kind of attracted to, but he also plays up his anti-establishment more than anyone else, even though sometimes he has people like John Bolton right next to him.
What a stupid.
Which was not a smart move to do, but he's able to play up on his charisma, his personality, and when you truly go to one of his kind of talks, whenever he's doing one of his rallies, it's really an event that's kind of awe-stunning, and you really kind of do understand. A lot of people don't understand Donald Trump unless they actually go to one of his rallies, one of his meetings, and you really get to see how he's up there in the moment and
he's
kind
a
of
comedian.
plays up to everyone.
He's funny.
He's funny. He's legitimately funny. I think it was Dave Chappelle that was talking about how Donald Trump came up with the term Kung Flu, and he was like, I'm not going to curse here, but Dave Chappelle cursed. He was like, I'm mad at him. He said that not because it's racially insensitive, but that's something I should say, not Donald Trump.
Right.
And you kind of give it up to him in that way, where he does represent this kind of anti-establishment idea, but it's an idea.
But yeah, he's not as smart as Sanders. They weren't afraid of him like they were of Sanders. Like Donald Trump Trump put that, what's his name, Bolton in. Now he's threatening to repeal Section 230 completely.
That's crazy. We got to talk about that.
Complete insanity. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing.
No, but you know what? I'm kind of digging it. You know why? Well, if the result is either if 230 got repealed, but he didn't reauthorize the NDAA, I would just be laughing the whole time. Now I'm concerned about our military personnel for sure, But the things they stuff in that bill, the amount of money they waste, the no-bid contracts, Trump's like, I'm not going to sign the NDA unless you repeal 230. I'm like, he's just going to blow it. He's like blowing the whole thing up.
Like he won't sign the NDA.
It's him literally pointing the middle finger to the political establishment and the military-industrial complex. And it's hilarious.
I don't know much about the NDAA. I really don't. But I like at a surface level, I would love to not refund it. It seems like a Patriot Act 2.0.
It funds the military. It authorizes the expenses towards military, and we spend a ridiculous amount of money. I was reading, there's a tweet, Matt Taibbi tweeted something out saying that when you actually break down the costs, even half of Republicans agree. This is ridiculous. We're spending too much money. And I think the easiest way to put it is we're building roads in Afghanistan and Iraq, or we've been for 20 years, and it's kind of winding down, with Trump. Why aren't we doing that here? We're building infrastructure in other countries. It's 20 years of my life we've been doing this.
We need to get tanks from west to east over there.
Yeah, well, I had to drive down from upstate New York. Holy cow! That looked. Some places looked like Iraq down there. I mean,
the
with the
wasteland,
roads.
dude.
Yeah, and I'm driving a trailer, so this thing's jumping up and down all the time. But the military-industrial complex does feed off the American people more than any kind of communist socialist leech out there. You want to talk about corporate welfare? Holy cow! When you look at the military
contracts,
no bid contract. Where's the free market? Where's the capitalism when you have Lockheed Martin and Boeing literally siphoning up?
Whoa! Those companies are run by women, Luke. You're not a sexist, are you?
And the new LGBTQ friendly, mainstream media approved groups.
They're going to put rainbow. They're going to put rainbow flags on Hellfire missiles. I'm not even. There's a photo of this. Like people were pointing it out. Like. This is what their plan is. It's a Reaper drone, and they put the symbols on it. Like that makes it okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Or Joe Biden's going to have fancy socks. That's what we're going to have with the mainstream media coming up in the next 4 years. Fancy Joe Biden socks. And look how great this person is drone bombing a wedding in Yemen. But they won't even talk about that, or how the United States is with Al Qaeda in Yemen. And that's a whole other different
Donald
topic
Trump
of discussion.
Could run into a burning building to save a box of puppies. And they would criticize him for being reckless and endangering. Well, he as much as we're critical of him, he is the president. This was extremely reckless. No matter what he does, it's bad. Donald Trump literally killed American citizens. People don't know this. Yeah. I rant as much as I can. I remember you asked. It was you. You asked, was it Charlie Gibbs?
Yeah, Obama's spokesperson and one of his top cabinet members, me and Sierra Adamson, during the presidential debates when Barack Obama was running against Mitt Romney, went up to him and we asked him a question that no one asked ever.
Why did you kill an American citizen?
And that was like, why did you? And this is important to understand here. Barack Obama physically signed off on every drone strike, physically made the approval for sending out killer robots to drone bomb innocent people, 90% of which were found out, according to The Intercept, with the government documents that they were able to find, 90% of which were innocent civilians. So, when you have such an egregious case, especially with the case of a 16-year-old American citizen from Colorado that was assassinated under this deposition matrix. It's not
disposition.
Disposition matrix. They make up all these fancy words for it. It's assassination
Make it
kill
hard to
list.
say.
Yeah, it's a kill list. It's a kill list. That's essentially it is. Barack Obama granted himself the ultimate power of Führer, able to assassinate and kill any American citizen anywhere in the world at any time under his own decree. No court, no judge, no lawyer, no legal arguments, and he did it and he carried it out.
Now here's where it comes into the NDAA. So Donald Trump tweets out, unless they repeal Section 230, I'm going to veto the National Defense Authorization Act. That's crazy. It's really crazy. I mean, repealing Section 230 would destroy the internet. No joke. Like it would be the end of independent media. Right? CNN would be laughing all the way to the bank because they got lawyers, they can afford it. Now, smaller channels definitely can't. Independent media definitely can't. If 230 goes, this channel won't exist. YouTube will start banning everybody left and right. YouTube would become Netflix overnight, where they sign off on every bit of content, and they want it. So a lot of people said this is Trump's big ask, right? He says, repeal 230. That way they walk it down to reform. No. No, the Democrats, the establishment, the rhinos, the never-Trumpers, they're begging to get rid of 230 because the only challenge they've ever had is when the people were able to communicate with each other, and they've been desperately trying to ban people. Give them an excuse. So now going back to Obama signed off on something called the indefinite detention provision. It was added to the National Defense Authorization Act, I think in 2012?
Yes.
It allows the government to indefinitely detain anybody, anywhere, for effectively any reason, even American citizens. Obama signed that. So now you have in this country, what 80 million people they say who voted for Biden, assuming that's, you know, the correct and final number, many of whom don't know anything about the Democratic Party, don't know what Obama was, don't know what Biden was. And now they're cheering like, we did it. We defeated fascism. It was like, yes, the fascists who was pulling our troops out of these countries, who was drawing down our you know, started no new wars. Great. Now we're going back to the Obama era.
Yeah, it just boggles my mind to see so many people call Donald Trump a fascist. He's a fascist. Meanwhile, where were you during the Obama administration where he legally codified assassinating, spying, torturing, killing, executing any American citizen at any time that he wants to? And these are the powers that he gave Donald Trump, and now there's other people telling Donald Trump, hey, use some of these powers, let's invoke martial law. And it's just I think
Directive 51.
I think we're being played like a fiddle here. I think it's important to pay attention more than ever, and these issues, especially the Obama administration, we need to revise what happened under Obama, because this is Obama 2.0 / more corporatist of a presidency coming in with Joe Biden. Yep. Joe Biden, who argued that there should be more corporate lobbying inside of the White House, not less. So that's the major disagreement that Obama had with Biden. Biden wanted more special interests.
But something interesting is going to happen. In their desperation, the establishment tried to activate as many people as possible to vote. So I'm talking to my friends now, and they're like, I mean, you know, I know this guy, he posted a picture of himself voting. You know, he's dropping the mailbox or mail-in ballot. And he was like, you got to vote for Biden, everybody. And so I, you know, challenged him a bit, like, why? And he's like, you know, Trump is undermining our democracy, and said all these things. And then I just went through a list of Obama era, you know, policies where Biden was the VP. And he's like, well, I don't know about supporting all that. I mean, I wasn't really paying attention back then. And I was like, so will you acknowledge you voted in a guy who oversaw his brother and family getting rich, flying his son on Air Force 2 to get this equity deal, and blowing up kids? And now, but here's the point I'm going to make. When you say, where were you when Obama was doing all this? Oh, they were asleep. And you know what? I'm not going to drag them for that. But guess what? If you think I'm going to sit back and Joe Biden gets to come in and start blowing up kids again, blowing up, innocent civilians, 90%, drone striking, and Trump was doing drone strikes too. I criticize him for that. I'm gonna hold these people figuratively to the flame. Yeah. I'm gonna be like, wow, you supported this. This is great. So tell me now, how do you feel about these kids?
Yeah, Trump not only supported and continued these policies, he also got rid of the provision that made the reporting of them not existent. So we still don't know exactly what Donald Trump did, because he got rid of that. But one of the videos that I'm most proud of that I did before was during a presidential election, where I went up to random people and I read off Obama's policies, but I told them that they were Mitt Romney's policies. And I'm like, Mitt Romney wants to assassinate American citizens. Mitt Romney wants to spy on you. Mitt Romney wants to torture American citizens. And
Mitt Romney was licking Obama's boots.
All of the people that I interviewed, I was like, this is Romney. And then they were like, this is horrible. We got to stop it. We got to fight him. And of course, these are all Barack Obama supporters. And then at the end of the video, I'm like, well, actually, I got to be honest with you. I lied to you. These weren't the policies of Mitt Romney. These were the policies of the guys you're voting for and supporting. And you didn't know any about it.
It's just tribalism, man.
Yeah.
It's all
party politics, tribalism, the divide and conquer agenda that's being played out that makes people hate each other over these little imaginary gang rules that are just absolutely ridiculous and insane.
So let's talk about Michael Flynn. This We the People thing. We did bring it up a little bit yesterday, so we'll sort of segue off this into Trump's call for victory. You know, he's calling for SCOTUS. He's calling on SCOTUS to give him the win. Before we do, man, I didn't even say this. Subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. You may have noticed we changed the cameras a little bit.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to change them a little bit further. We're just kind of making things better and better as we go along. But again, subscribe live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And again, smash the like button. So check this out. We have this tweet. General Flynn said hashtag We the People. He tagged Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood, Dan Scavino, Lou Dobbs, Maria Bartiromo, Mark Levin, and who's Lowfly? I don't know who Lowfly is. Just, proud wife of an American hero. And then it is the press release from the We the People convention. If you didn't see this yesterday, this is a call for Donald Trump to declare martial law to enact a new election. And a lot of people are saying that's crazy. It's unconstitutional. How would he even do this? And what they're saying is Trump needs to have a new election, paper only, secure, poll watchers and all that stuff. I don't think it can be done. Right now, what the We the People convention are saying is martial law is preferable to civil war. So they're basically saying if Trump does nothing, we're going to have civil war, or it's extremely likely. Well, if Trump declares martial law and says Joe Biden didn't win, then we're going to have civil war. There's no way around that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, my my solution to fix this problem is to, I mean, I don't know why people aren't talking about this. Let's break up the country in two. You like a government? You like Joe Biden?
Divorce?
Stay on one place? Yeah, I mean,
what? The cities leave?
Yep.
No, the cities represent themselves, and people who want to be under one government will be under one. I think really we're headed towards a very dangerous situation, and I think the only way to avoid getting it being even more worse for everyone is to just simply walk away from it. I think we're at an opportunity
I guess
time.
We saw what John Podesta was suggesting, that it would be better for Joe Biden to for the West Coast to secede from the Union.
Yes.
Than to allow Donald Trump to win.
They'd
the
get
presidency.
invaded immediately. If a city tried to secede, they'd get invaded by the United States. Any of those states tried to secede.
Oh, absolutely. They'd be occupied in 2 seconds. And then it would just, like, there's actually been conservatives calling for that, saying remove the local leadership, the politicians, and just put it under, like, territorial rule. Like, revoke their statehood. And, like, it's getting crazy out there, man. Yeah, listen, I could understand why Michael Flynn is retweeting. You pull up some of these websites and they're like, Michael Flynn calls for martial law and things like this. It's like, well, they're pushing this idea that, we can be careful in that. I understand. I completely understand why Michael Flynn would be saying this. They railroaded the guy. They threatened his family, plead guilty to this BS charge, or we're going to go after your kid. And then when Trump got in and said, we're getting rid of this, they were like, no. Judge Sullivan refused to allow them to drop the case. It makes no sense. And then he was sitting and waiting. You know why Sullivan was waiting and not just saying, fine, we're going to rule on this? Because he was just going to wait it out until Biden gets into office and then say, okay, we're back on track. Flynn, you're going to prison. So Trump issues that pardon. Flynn's livid and he says, do it. I get it. Because he went through the corrupt process. And is there going to be justice? Shouldn't that judge face some kind of censure or impeachment? What about the FBI agents who threatened his son and said, we're going to prosecute your son unless you plead guilty? All of them get away with it. So, of course, he's coming out and saying, Trump, shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Flynn definitely didn't have any friends in Washington, D.C. when he was coming into power with Donald Trump. He's one of the few people that actually whistleblowed on the U.S. agency. Whistleblew on the U.S. agencies financing jihadis in Syria. He's one of the few ones that was inside of Obama's administration that released information and said it's because of Barack Obama, it's because of Hillary Clinton, why we have ISIS in the Middle East. And that
was retribution.
Yes, it exactly was retribution. Wow, there's no other way to really see it, because when Michael Flynn came out, I was talking about all the important information he was finally confirming, because I've been saying for a very long time, especially since there was this kind of, quote, revolution in Syria, this kind of liberation that Hillary Clinton was supporting of the Syrian people. When that was happening, I said, wait, hold on. Why is Saudi Arabia, Israel, the United States all working on this one side? Why are the rebel groups being financed and armed here? Who are these rebel groups? They were al-Nusra, they were al-Qaeda, and then they became ISIS as well. That was financed. The only person inside of the government that actually confirmed it, that actually spoke out against it, was Michael Flynn. When Trump picked him to be a part of his administration, this was one of the reasons I was like, there might be some legitimate change here, because Michael Flynn is at the helm of national security, of American foreign policy. There's a chance that we finally might revert some of the horrible foreign policy decisions by Hillary Clinton. Then he didn't even get into office because of why? Why? Because of the Espionage Act, an act that
the Logan Act.
The Logan Act that wasn't used against
anybody
someone
ever
for how long?
Never used.
Exactly. And then his charge officially was because Kushner told him to contact Russia, so Russia would vote favorably with Israel.
That's not even it. Yeah. There was an excuse. Based on the notes that were released throughout this investigation, I think it was coming from Durham. I'm not entirely sure. No, I don't think it was Durham. I don't know where these files were released from. It shows that it was possibly Joe Biden who suggested the FBI use the Logan Act. The Logan Act basically says that you, as a non-government agent, can't act as though you are representing the U.S. government. No, it's never been used before because it was written for a time when there were no telephones. Now a guy shows up and says, "Hey, I'm an ambassador." They call the number and says, "This is an ambassador." He's not. Get out of here. Michael Flynn was the acting national security advisor for Donald Trump. He was coming in. He had a phone call with Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, and he said, please don't escalate sanctions. Let us come in and try and work things out." That was it. That was his job. He was supposed to do that. So they threatened him. That's the Logan Act.
Yep.
So there was an informal meeting where they're like hanging out at the White House, not a legitimate investigation, informal meeting. And they asked him, do you ever talk to Kislyak? And he said, no. And they went, got him. He lied. They went to him and said, confess, plead guilty. Otherwise, we will go after your son. Notes that got released from the FBI showed that the agents were asking, what's our goal here? To prosecute or get him fired? Now, why would the FBI just be trying to get a guy fired? This was retribution from Barack Obama. I didn't know that about Flynn spilling the beans.
And then it's very important to understand here how the mainstream media was reporting on this when it was happening. And they were like, confirmed Russian collusion. We have an active case. Michael Flynn deserves to go to jail. I mean, what did Michael Flynn do? He called the Russian ambassador right before getting into power.
While he was the acting national security advisor.
I mean, and like Biden right now is calling up world leaders, talking to him. If you're going to charge Michael Flynn for that crime, you're going to have to charge Joe Biden if we're going by the law, by the definitions of how you enforce them. So that's something that people really need to kind of pay attention. Of course they're not. Of course. You know, you have Joe Biden literally studying up there talking about, you know, all this nonsense with literal president-elect behind him.
Isn't he getting a cat? Joe Biden's getting
undoubtedly.
He should have a cat.
He's getting a cat.
Not a German Shepherd.
Look, man, Luke, I respect that you're so passionate about, you know, children being murdered and corruption at the highest levels and our patriots like Michael Flynn being falsely targeted and imprisoned. But I think I need to point out Joe Biden was playing with a dog. You know, you hear that? He's got a German Shepherd.
Cute socks.
Yeah. So dogs are so great, aren't they?
Yeah,
Don't talk
especially
about
Joe Biden.
Nobody wants to hear this. No.
Yeah.
Go to sleep,
I
everybody.
I appreciate your love
Here's
for
American
humanity
Gladiators.
and that you care about people and want to protect people. But Biden is getting a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's more important here.
One of my favorite
like
lines from I'm forgetting his name.
Bill Hicks.
Bill Hicks. Here's
Wow.
American Gladiators. What is it? Here's 47 channels of it.
Yep. Here's, distract yourself, America.
Yep.
Go back. No. George Carlin also said, go back to sleep, America, because the only way you could have the American dream is if
To
you're
be asleep.
Yeah,
Bill Hicks said, go back to bed, America. Your government is in control again.
Yes. Yeah.
Yikes.
Amazing comedians that have really paved the way.
That line sums up everything that's happening. I didn't know that about Flynn.
Yeah.
He's legit.
So there's no.
Wow, dude.
Well, he's a weird character because he also has a very strong kind of war policy towards Iran.
Yeah.
But when it came to being inside of the Obama administration, he's one of the few people that actually spoke out against some of the very wrongdoings that Obama was committing when he was working for Obama. I actually talked to General Wesley Clark about these very kind of similar issues. And it's absolutely mind-boggling to see how everything operates. General Wesley Clark was one of the few people inside of the government that came out on Democracy Now! And talked about this U.S. plan for larger war.
Right. What do you name? Like 7 countries.
With 7 countries and U.S.
Libya, Syria.
Yeah, U.S. foreign policy was literally
Iran.
going
Cuba,
along with
then?
it. I talked to U.S. General Wesley Clark. I was like, thank you so much for warning us about, this coming. There was, something that didn't always... you weren't a true fortune teller, but most of what you said is coming true. How did you know what's going on? Are you scared that you whistleblowed and talked about this plan for all these wars? He looked like he just saw a ghost. He turned white and he was like, and then he walked away and ran away and didn't say anything. And it was just another awkward We Are Change kind of interview
Yep.
that we have a lot of them.
Ambush questions.
But they're trying to put central banks in all these countries, like Libya.
Is that what they're doing?
That's why they went into Afghanistan.
Yeah,
and
but
Iraq.
That's a different theory out there.
Well, now there's central banks in Afghanistan and Iraq. Iran doesn't have one. Syria didn't have one. Doesn't have
Really?
one.
Iran doesn't have one.
Libya didn't. Now it does. No, Iran doesn't have one.
So
Cuba doesn't have one. North Korea doesn't have one.
If one of the biggest one of the talking points coming up now is that everything Trump is doing with like the DOD and stuff is an attempt to ramp up going against Iran.
Yeah, I mean...
Start a war before he leaves or something.
Yeah, the Israeli military, there's scuttlebutt that they're preparing for the U.S. to, start a war with Iran. But again, it's just scuttlebutt. Nothing has been officially confirmed. We have seen very aggressive moves by Donald Trump against Iran. There's some people theorizing that Donald Trump may start a conflict with them.
To stay in power.
To stay in power and all that. I don't think that's true. I hope it's not true. But again, I haven't seen it certified with any legitimate information backing that. Just a lot of speculation and theories. But we don't have to speculate. We don't don't have to theorize what's going to happen with Joe Biden. All you have to see is his whole career in politics, but also his actions as vice president under Barack Obama, who made very telling statements today that are absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, there's another Madeleine Albright, it was worth it, hundreds of thousands of children died. Similar statement by Barack Obama about this kind of assassination program that he had, which is very important to talk about.
Let me pull this up. So I got this tweet from Luke, at Luke We Are Change. Just a video of Obama explaining how he had to stop himself from killing innocent children. This is from CBS. It's an interview with Stephen Colbert. It happened recently, right? It was a couple days ago.
Yes.
Here's the best thing. So seeing this interview, I thought, wow, there must have been a ton of journalists who wrote this up like, look at what's going on. But Joe Biden is Obama 2.0. He's appointing a lot of the same people. It is going to be a disaster. So I Googled it. And you know what I found? I Googled CBS drone Obama. The rap.
UFO?
Yes, Barack Obama knows the UFO answer, but he can't tell you. Obama compares Trump to dictator. Okay.
Yes,
there you go.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But just to tell you what Barack Obama said, his exact quote was, "The problem with the drone program was not that it caused an inordinate amount of civilian casualties." Although even one civilian casualty is tragic, but the drone probably had less collateral damage. And then he went on and talked about how he was using this and how there was a problem of how he saw it as not even war and how he was deploying it very casually without even thinking about it, and how he needed to set up particular measures to stop himself from sending out drone strikes all over the world. We have to understand, 7 countries were attacked under the Barack Obama administration. Somalia was also one of those heavily hit.
Secret war going on in Somalia now, apparently. CIA agent died in a terror attack.
Well, I was in Somalia, and I'll tell you, what's happening there is absolutely mind-boggling. I was able to talk to victims of botched U.S. raids where innocent farmers were pretty much assassinated because of bad intel and bad information. Now, the Somalia conflict, I mean, we could do a full 2 hours just about that in that issue particularly, but I just ended up there randomly because Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante, he's like an anarchist. He keeps saying that everyone keeps accusing him of not being a real anarchist, and if he is a real anarchist, he should go to Somalia.
So he did.
So he's like, I'm going to go to Somalia. And he was like, you want to come? I'm like, yep. We went to Somalia, and it was a surreal experience. And surprise, surprise, it wasn't that there was a lack of government. The problem was that there was too many governments inside
fighting
of Somalia vying for power.
Yeah.
The Middle Eastern countries were involved. Turkey was involved. Qatar was involved. AFRICOM was involved.
Wow.
The United States was involved. And they were all sending in and shipping in weapons, munitions, and then soldiers that were hired, that were supposedly the good guys, started selling them for food because they didn't have food.
Oh, man.
So it's a total mismanagement and a total conundrum of just absolutely what the hell is going on. When you go to Somalia, when you talk to some of these individuals, they are resilient. They are amazing human beings. I was able to talk to people who were severely affected by major terrorist attacks by al-Nusra, by major attacks by the U.S. military that killed their family members. And it's something else when you really go to these countries and you see the full effects of American foreign policy, and you stare a farmer in the eye as he tells you and shows you all the family members that your tax dollars financed that executed them.
So let's talk about this. In 2016, we'll talk about, the question is, should Donald Trump get another 4 years? And so so Trump, we have this article. Let's just jump to the article and then I'll get to my point. Quote, "It is statistically impossible that I lost. White House releases 46-minute address by Trump complaining that he lost the election and pleading with the Supreme Court to overturn Biden's victory. They say the president posted a 46-minute video. He complained about voting machines and ballots that came in election night, predicted what he was saying will be demeaned and disparaged, said he didn't want a revote but wanted to overturn the election immediately. He called the election a total catastrophe. Trump said it may be the most important speech I've ever made." In 2016, coming off of the Obama administration, man, I was just so I don't even care. This stuff is going to keep happening. It was Bush. Now it's Obama. What is it going to be? Hillary, Trump, whatever. They said Hillary was going to win. I didn't care. I'm not going to vote because I didn't see Trump as being particularly better. When Trump got in, for the first about 2.5 years or more, I mean, he was upping drone strikes. There were commando raids in Yemen. There were civilians dying. And I was like, here we go again. 59 missile strikes into Syria. But something started to change later on. He fires John Bolton. he starts saying the American people don't like this. We're going to get our troops out of Syria. We learned that there were officials, U.S. federal officials, who lied to the American people and Donald Trump to keep our soldiers in Syria. That's insane. Donald Trump was elected to end the forever wars, partly. He didn't do a good job initially. He started to improve. So I decided, I'm going to vote for the guy now. The question is, knowing what we're going to get with Joe Biden, we'll first talk about, should Trump get another 4 years? Then we'll talk about the fraud accusations, the things he brought up, and your thoughts, Luke.
Well, you brought up a very good point, especially with what Donald Trump was promising, because when he was running to be president of the United States, one of the main ways he galvanized so many people is by saying he's anti-war. He wants to bring the troops home. Everyone rallied behind that. Everyone was excited about that. It wasn't just hope and change, but we also have to understand Barack Obama campaigned on those same things, promising bring back the troops, stop the spying, stop the torture. George W. Bush, same thing, promised to be a non-interventionist. And look at him starting the Iraq war. So with everything that's kind of moving forward, it really makes you wonder, is the U.S. president that powerful? I know it's a very kind of symbolic kind of gesture, but when we look at everything kind of moving forward, we're definitely putting ourselves in a very peculiar situation that's not an easy one to figure out. So how we're going to move forward, it's really going to be something that I can't figure out. We're going to wait.
Do you think Trump did a good job in the past couple of years? Did he do a better job?
I think he definitely did. I think I was definitely entertained by his rhetoric. But I think he fell short. I think there's still a lot of individuals like Julian Assange that would say that he did a very terrible job, since many of his policies led Julian Assange, many of his actions led Julian Assange to still be in jail right now, extradited to the United States. Assange should be pardoned. Snowden should be pardoned, and I think personally Ross Ulbricht should be pardoned as well.
The Silk Road
and if I was Donald Trump right now, if I was him, if I was in charge, I would keep all of the promises I made. I would send all the troops home. I would end the war on drugs. But hold on. But I would still try to do it at least on pen and paper.
Right.
So then when Joe Biden comes in, he has to authorize them. He has to convince the American people saying, no, we need the war on drugs. No, we need Julian Assange dead. We need the troops in Pakistan.
This is why, Donald Trump, there's a lot of lefties hate the man, and I was surprised. I thought one of the possible outcomes of the 2020 election would be that progressives would be like, I don't know, I'll take the anti-war guy over Biden. But nope. They came out. They said they wanted Biden because a lot of these people are young and don't know. Like we had one guy on. He was a teenager during Occupy Wall Street. He doesn't know anything about this stuff. So what we're going to end up seeing now is Joe Biden is going to get in. And he's going to reverse a lot of populist policies that the left probably does like. He's going to go nuts on war. We're counting down the days. I love it. I'm looking at these anti-Trump reply guys who all of a sudden now are anti-Biden. I'm like, oh, here you go. You screamed about Trump. Maybe these people are just contrarians.
Yeah, Naomi Wolf just realized, there's going to be more lockdowns. Yeah, I didn't want to vote for this.
Biden Gret.
And people don't understand. I mean, some people say Biden's not there. He maybe isn't, but we have to understand he still is a front person for the military-industrial complex, for the pharma-industrial complex, for the prison-industrial complex. All big businesses, all the corrupt institutions, all the multinational corporations are behind him. Joe Biden just says whatever talking points he's assigned to, and he's been doing that his entire career. You look at the issues, whether it's segregation, if it was popular, he said it.
Oh, he was for it.
But not even when it was popular, when it was the status quo, when the establishment approved those talking points. So whatever the establishment wants, he is the front person of that. And he didn't even have to promise to bring all the troops home. He didn't have to promise what Barack Obama had to promise, what Donald Trump promised. He didn't even have to do that. So that's something that really should wake people up to what's coming in the next 4 years, because he's not even promising to be a good guy. He's not even doing press releases. He's not even doing press conferences. He's not even speaking to the people. Luke, he's just this mystery weird guy who mumbles.
Is Donald Trump the greatest president of your lifetime?
He's...
I think you have to say yes, man.
Politicians...
We're comparing him to other presidents. I got to say, he is substantially better than every president I've lived through.
Politicians are like, I can't curse here, are like buttocks. They're all full of crap, but some of them have a better diet. Yes, Donald Trump, at least with his rhetoric, at least with some of his nationalistic kind of policies, is a lot better. He was able to shake things up. He was able to rattle things, and that I will give him credit for. When it comes to Julian Assange, when it comes to some of his foreign policy, I have very serious questions about. He called himself a patriot and a globalist, and I think his presidency exemplifies that. He said that himself. Yes, he said, I am quasi, I forgot the exact terminology and wording. I could actually look it up here. But he said he compared himself a globalist and a patriot.
Trump did.
Yes.
Interesting.
Which is what he's been. He's kind of been flip-flopping, where he's hanging out with Henry Kissinger one day and the second day going after China and their trade policies, when you have Kissinger, the guy who literally opened up China to the world. If you look at the conundrum that America and the world is facing with China, those have the direct fingerprints of Henry Kissinger, David Rockefeller. Yeah, well, fired this larger kind of institution.
He dismantled the advisory board for the Pentagon, which included Kissinger.
On his way out.
I know.
And I'm like, come on.
So here's what a lot of people are questioning. Why is Trump making all of these moves, like replacing the Pentagon leadership, sending his acting secretary of defense says special forces now answers directly to me and bypasses the bureaucracy. Yeah. Then he gets rid of this advisory board. When someone sent me a message, they were like, Trump fired Kissinger. I was like, what? And I looked it up. I started laughing. It was, I was just
you sent me that article. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? What? And the guy's still kicking. The guy's still such, an
Didn't he call for
person.
Genocide before or something?
Well, when you look at his policies that he was able to establish under Nixon, under the Vietnam War, specifically in Cambodia, specifically in Chile, specifically in third world countries, where he was the kind of architect and engineer of this larger term of an economic hitman. So if you look at John Perkins and the economic hitman and the revelations that came out of that book, it's Henry Kissinger all over it, the World Bank, the IMF, the same organizations calling for a global reset now, were some of the same institutions that were hand in hand working with Kissinger, working with the United States, working with the CIA, intelligence agencies, overthrowing governments, setting policies all around the world. And when you see a lot of the detrimental, horrible things that have happened, whether it's war, whether it's multinational corporations abusing, lying, poisoning, or doing anything, a lot of them point back to directly those kind of individuals that need to be called out.
So here's the crazy thing, right? During Occupy Wall Street, you had the left protesting Obama. In 2016, the left didn't show up to protest the RNC. They showed up to protest the DNC. Now, for some reason, they voted for Biden, I guess. But what's going to happen now is going to be so weird, because they were like, Tim Pool's a leftist the whole time, like during Obama and everything. Then Donald Trump's elected, and I'm like, the media's lying about it, but the leftists align themselves with the establishment. So then all of a sudden people start calling me conservative. Now I'm telling you, when I start ragging on Biden, I've been ragging on Biden. My friends, I've ragged on Obama and Biden endlessly for the past decade, okay? Now they're going to be like, what's going to happen? Who's going to be left? Who's going to be right?
Yeah.
What's right wing?
It doesn't matter anymore. I rag on everyone because I think they all deserve to be ragged on. Anyone in power, I believe in total decentralization. That's my own kind of philosophy. But I think there's a statement from Donald Trump that's really going to be poignant here with what you were just saying when he said, Antifa is going to have their way with Joe Biden. They're going to eat him for breakfast.
Did he say have their way?
It's not an exact quote. I'm ad-libbing here. I don't have the exact words. But generally, he said that Antifa is going to, take down Joe Biden. And right now we're not seeing a lot of Antifa protesting a lot of the stronger government restrictions and lockdowns.
Well, they're pro-lockdown.
Yeah,
weirdly, they're like, we stopped fascism. Yay. Okay, government. Now what? Oh, you want us to be forced to stay in our homes? Yay. We defeated fascism.
Yes, we want checkpoints. Yes, you want us to shut down all of the private and small businesses to help out Walmart and Amazon. It's absolutely
exactly
crazy what's happening.
We want to talk
right
about
now.
what fascism is.
Yeah.
But what Benito Mussolini said, the merger between the corporation and the state for their mutual benefit or whatever. Now what do you got going on? There's a guy in Staten Island who he's not like, I'm watching this guy on TV, and I mean no disrespect, but he's not a TV guy. He's not a public figure kind of person. He's a regular guy. And so he's not giving you that polished politician answer. They're like, why are you opening your bar and defying these lockdowns? And he's just like, we got to do something. Like they're destroying us. It's like we have nothing left. And they pointed something out. It's really crazy, the Staten Island story. They said this bar where the guy defied the police The police line up and block the entrance. These cops are nuts. They were like 2 blocks away. Everything's normal. Restaurants, dining, totally normal. What happens is DeBlasio just decides this is a red zone, and they put on the ground with it's like paint or something, a sign saying danger zone or something. It's the creepiest thing. Just segmenting off parts of the city saying your business is done. It feels like mafioso. Like what their goal is, hey, my name is Bill DeBlasio. Cuomo, come over here. We're going to shut down this part of the city so that all the property value collapses. Buy it up. He said he was going to do it. Bill DeBlasio said he was going to do it.
I have to say, Bill DeBlasio really loves to graffiti the streets in New York
Yeah,
City.
he does.
He seems to really have a knack for that, and it's just absolutely insane. Like, you won't be able to walk down to another street or another block or another neighborhood. The New York City subway system is still open and operating, and in many instances crowded with a large number of individuals. When you see, you know, the Como brothers, when you see the politicians, when you see them defying their own kind of rules and decrees, like, if you want people to take you seriously, you should take what policies you're proposing, what policies or decrees you're pushing on people. You should follow them as well, and they're not. They're openly celebrating Biden's victory. They're openly promoting Black Lives Matter protests because Black Lives Matter protests are essential and way more important than the conholio sickness, and it's absolutely ridiculous to see.
Listen, this is why I think I used to say, like, man, we're about to go over the edge, huh? I think we went over the edge a long time ago. We were falling for a long time. We hit the ground. Like, there's no going back from this. For a year now, we've seen Democrats flaunt their own rules. They say, oh, no, we got to do all these things. And then they go to the opposite. Nancy Pelosi gets her hair done. Gretchen Whitmer, Lori Lightfoot. Then they do the lockdown again, saying things are getting so bad, we got to lock everything down. And then Newsom goes and parties with a bunch of doctors in a closed room. And then he's like, that was a mistake. Then all of these Democrats are flying to Hawaii for vacation. They're laughing in the faces of those, and they're destroying the lives of working class people. And where is Antifa? Nowhere to be found. They were screaming that there was a guy with an orange face, and then as soon as the orange guy leaves, they're like, okay, we're fine with the fascism now, bye.
Yeah, CNN goes after people who make memes that are against them and doxes them. Meanwhile, when you see a legitimate threat against the livelihood of individuals, this poor guy, he's trying to make ends meet. He's trying to make a living. He's trying to make sure his employees have a paycheck so they could actually eat. They could actually live in one of the most taxed, regulated, controlled cities in all of the United States. And you, after abiding by all the laws, after doing everything you're supposed to do, this guy also had a pretty good idea, I have to say. He declared his business an autonomous zone, just like Chaz. And he says, well, this is an autonomous zone. Because, again, when Chaz first started, this was nothing that was questioned, nothing that was stopped by the authorities, nothing that was, brought up as a health hazard of individuals camping together, staying together in close quarters without proper bathroom facilities. No one even talked about that. But you open up a business where you want to make a living for yourself, and this is the first of its case that I saw here in the United States where it actually led to an arrest. Right. This happened recently in Toronto.
It happened in Jersey.
Where people,
the gym owners.
Yes, the gym owners were.
There was the salon owners
arrested.
As
well. Yes. I remember even that was. I was at that gym. I was talking to the main gym owner. A friend was actually grew up with him. And was a high school friend of him, and what happened to them and what happens to individuals, it's mainly individuals who are standing up and they're raising their voice about how insane, how unjust, how unscientific, how illogical a lot of this is, and because of that, they get targets on their back, and the government sends out police officers who don't question anything, who many times follow decrees. These are not laws.
Right.
There's not even debates. These are not even laws that are codified.
It's just him ordering his Praetorian Guard to go abuse the peasants.
Yeah, not based off science. If you really do care about our personal well-being, maybe we could have a conversation about proper health, proper sleep, proper diet, proper exercise, making sure that we're not stressed out.
Gun safety training, mandatory gun ownership, universal gun programs where the government is mandated to give everyone a gun.
I like that idea. And
from the Department of Gun Services.
Dude, diet's huge. Obesity's insane epidemic. High fructose corn syrup's just insidious the way that they're injecting this stuff into our population.
Let me ask you though, you're from New York, right?
I moved from New York this year, and I moved up to the Live Free or Die state, New Hampshire, which has been an incredible experience.
Let me ask you: do the police in New York swear an oath to the Constitution?
I'm not sure if they do, but
do cops do that?
I don't know.
There's this duty to serve and protect, but legally, the New York City Police Department argued in court many times that they have no duty to protect you,
people.
to help you, or to do anything to you or for you. And this was exemplified by my friend Joe Lazito, that literally took down a mass murderer. There was a mass murderer on the loose. Police officers saw that this mass murderer was on the loose. They were inside of a train car watching as Joe Lazito was being stabbed. Joe Lazito watched. Yeah, I met Joe Lazito through a friend. I became friends with him, and he told me this story. I saw the scars on his head randomly at a bar.
The guy was stabbed,
and I'm like,
right?
my goodness, like I need to share your story. And yeah, I mean, he had a butcher knife, stabbed in the head, almost lost his life, bled out everywhere after taking down the killer. Joe Lazito took down the killer, badly injured. Police officers, only after he was taken down, came out of that subway cart, and then they handcuffed the criminal, and they waited, and they even derailed the train from moving because of official protocol, which made Joe Lazito bleed out. He woke up in the hospital with Mayor, I think it was Bloomberg at the time, congratulating these two officers that stood back as heroes who took down a murderer, and they called him a victim. He sued the city. The city argued, we had no duty to protect you as you were getting stabbed, as we had guns and clubs and could have stopped this man almost killing you. We didn't have to.
So what you're saying is defund the police?
Not quite.
I mean, again, there's other examples we could talk about, such as Tehran, that I personally traveled to, which are these autonomous kind of zones where there are no police, where there are no governments. I think there is something.
Everyone's got guns, security.
Well, they live in their own land, 30,000 people in Tehran, where they decide what they're going to
Mexico?
do themselves. Yes, it's in Michoacan. It's in one of the deadliest states of all of Mexico that is reporting no deaths after the population rose up with small arms, with pitchforks, with knives, and threw out the cartel, the police department, and the government that were all working in tandem. And now they're living more prosperous than ever. There hasn't been a murder in that town for, I think, 7 years now. I did a full documentary traveling down there. 30,000 people. Yes, they're armed. They have their own guns, of course.
Here's what people don't get. What's the point of an occupation, a military occupation? You want people to give you something. You want to control the land for some strategic resource, or you want the people to give you a portion of their labor and resources. You want stuff. You want it from them. What happens if they all say no? Then occupation gets you nothing. What can you do if the people won't give you what you want? So it's not even about small arms. It's about just defiance. And at a certain point, you're like, it costs me more trying to get these defiant people to do anything they won't do. These people on the left, they don't realize when they talk about, insurrection and revolution and civil war or whatever, the Second Amendment, that's meaningless because the government has, cruise missiles. And it's like, bro, read your history on
laughing
Vietnam.
in Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Tunnels, man. It's about tunnels. That's what the Vietnamese did. Giant tunnels.
It's just about having people say no. Say no. Look, right now, if everybody in Staten Island, what are they going to do? The cops are going to be like, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
That's it. They have to bring in these cops from outside these areas to enforce this stuff too, because they'd be like their aunt would come out with a rolling pin and being like, "What you doing? Get out of here!" So they bring in guys from other parts of the city and they move them down and they have them enforce laws that nobody wants. And it's crazy to me that even though you have this guy in Staten Island, he defies this, they're all still doing everything by the appropriate CDC guidelines. They're just not shutting their doors. And then the cops come out. Anyway, let's do this. Let's talk about defund the police, because I want to talk about Antifa with you, because you brought it up earlier, and we have some amazing Antifa stories. I want you to tell the story. But so Barack Obama apparently is no longer left enough. We have the story from The Independent. It's not a slogan. Ilhan Omar fires back at Obama for attacking defund the police campaign. We lose people in the hands of the police, says Minnesota representative. So Obama basically comes out and says, you lost a big audience the minute you say it, which makes it a lot less likely that you're actually going to get the changes you want done. He's actually right. The former president said in an interview obtained by Axios, the key is deciding, do you want to actually get something done, or do you want to feel good among the people you already agree with, Mr. Obama added. Ilhan Omar tweets, We lose people in the hands of police. It's not a slogan, but a policy demand. And centering the demand for equitable investments and budgets for communities across the country gets us progress and safety. A bunch of other squad members, came out. We got newly elected Cori Bush saying, with all due respect, Mr. President, let's talk about losing people. We lost Michael Brown Jr. We lost Breonna Taylor. We are losing our loved ones to police violence. It's not a slogan. It's a mandate for keeping our people alive. Defund the police. They don't want the middle ground. They don't want regular Americans. And I tell you, who's in for a rude awakening? Regular Americans. The ones who voted for Biden, not the ones who voted for Trump. They're going to be forced to see this stuff now. They're going to see the dark winter. Joe Biden says we're in for a dark winter. The regular Americans who went out and said Orange Man is bad because CNN said so, they're not going to be happy with their decision because Obama isn't left enough. The squad is saying, you're not left enough. Sorry, we're going to defund the police. What does it mean to defund the police? Oh, they say, no. We just mean we want to take some of the money away from the cops. And then what do you actually hear? New York Times op-ed. Yes, we mean abolish the police. It's absolutely nuts. It's funny. In Minnesota, they voted to defund the police. And then crime skyrocketed. People started freaking out. And all of a sudden, these city council members were like, no, go back. We want to take you back. Takes you back. They're like, we don't want to do it. Well, cops are fleeing the city. They don't want to work there. So now this is what you get. Under a Biden, I'll tell you what's going to happen with Biden and with Antifa and all this stuff. Things have kind of calmed down and people are saying, see, now that Biden's won, Antifa's kind of going away. Trump was wrong. Well, it's winter. This is a normal thing that happens in winter. People stop protesting as much. It's getting colder out. The leaves are gone. We'll see how things play out. I think Biden is going to try and throw them enough red meat to keep them satiated. But he really is snubbing these progressives. Bad.
Oh, yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
especially with his appointees for his cabinet. His transition team is filled
Neera Tanden.
with the worst of the worst swamp monsters that you could ever imagine from the corporate globalist international world of seedy investment banks and hedge funds that are essentially robbing this country blind. Many people don't even know that there's massive Federal Reserve bailouts of hedge funds happening right now.
Oh,
That's
really?
going to happen on a larger scale under the the Biden administration, which is going to be filled with a lot of corporatists. Now, I could see kind of Obama's statements as a kind of strategy that he's trying to deploy, trying to galvanize some people behind Joe Biden, trying to get this middle ground. But I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. There's going to be a very rude awakening to a lot of individuals who are saying, yes, we got out Trump, but who did you replace him with? And it's just like that meme where one person tears down a statue and another statue just pops right back up that you have in your song that I'm thinking about right now. And
No, but Trump wasn't the same. Like, it is true they tear one down, the next pops up.
Yes.
But Trump would have been better. The economy was fantastic, and he was
I don't agree.
policies on China.
I feel like the economy was just tanking this whole time.
only during COVID.
We have to understand there's a big difference between the economy and the stock market. So just because the stock market's doing good doesn't mean
Right.
that the average American
No,
is doing good.
the average American was doing really, really well in 2019.
2019, sure, but I'm talking about
COVID.
right now,
But
record numbers,
But
stock numbers.
that's Democrats shutting down the economy. Trump,
Well,
not
also
Trump.
Federal Reserve interest and debt. That's why the economy is inflated basically right now. So it looks, the numbers
Well,
are big, but the value of
That's
the
stock
dollar is
market.
down.
The stock market makes people
Yeah, the
feel
stock
good.
market's inflated right
It makes
now.
their retirement accounts look good.
22% of all U.S. dollars were printed this year alone. And there's gonna be-
Jeez.
Yes, and there's going to be more printed. And this
So
is
buy
going
your
to-
gold,
Yeah.
hide your wives, hide your kids.
Look at the cryptocurrencies, maybe. I've been talking
Buy
about that
land.
for a very long time, but that's that's a separate topic. But it's going to be a very interesting transition. I understand where you're coming from, and I could see some of the very populist, the popular kind of policies by Donald Trump, especially his policies against China, which are going to do a 180-degree flip right now under a Biden administration, which of course is going to be very favorable towards China, and that's going to have tremendous ramifications like it always had ever since Henry Kissinger and David Rockefeller opened up China to the world and made it the manufacturing slave hub of the world for the benefit of the multinational corporations that are changing out middle class blue collar jobs in America and then just sending them off to China. That kind of
gonna be
same
Biden.
policy that has been abusing the average American, that has destroyed cities like Detroit, that has destroyed
Flynn.
this ability of one family member being able to work for an entire family. You know, it used to be that one person would work in the family and they were able to make ends meet. Now, you can't have that.
Now the mom and the dad are both working jobs and struggling to make ends meet.
Exactly. And
the kids got to be in school, otherwise they can't work. So then they shut down the schools, forcing the kids in defiance of the science. Man, I tell you, these mayors, these governors, they're trying to destroy people's lives on purpose.
Yeah, and there's no science, especially in New York City, backing that keeping kids in school is somehow a danger. Where's the logic? Where's the data? Where are the studies? Where is the logical kind of conclusions coming towards saying, hey, having children in school is dangerous? I haven't seen any. There's nothing justifying it, and it's having a huge effect on this poor guy in Staten Island that's essentially getting destroyed, getting put in jail, getting robbed, and essentially ransomed because he doesn't want to give away his profits to Walmart and to Amazon. That's his crime. His crime is not bowing down to his new corporate overlords, and people need to understand that as the main principled issue here. He didn't violate any made-up laws and decrees. He just didn't go along with the establishment program to finance the beast that is the corporate giant in America.
The World Economic Forum published a video where they said, in 2030, you will not own anything and you will be happy. And they are now saying COVID-19. So they published that. That was a couple years ago. Now they're saying COVID-19 is our chance for a great reset. They're very clearly exploiting a crisis to destroy ownership because they don't want you to be sovereign and autonomous. They don't want you to be the individual who says, I don't need government. They want you dependent on government. They want you begging the government for a stimulus. And it's working.
Yeah.
So they're going to lock you up because they own you. That's their plan. Last I thought, this was America.
Yeah, and once you're dependent on government to survive, the government has more power and control over you. And that's why it should kind of raise eyebrows that we literally have the Gates Foundation, the IMF, the United Nations, the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, and many multinational corporations talking about the Great Reset. Right. At the same time, the New York Times is telling you it's a conspiracy theory.
I love it.
So as that is happening, you really have to wonder what's going out there. And the only way to really get, this kind of greater understanding is on YouTube, where a major battle's, happening, and a lot of these messages are just getting squashed out.
We were joking around before the show the other day, and I said a funny idea for a dystopian novel is the government mandates everybody gets heroin, but only the government can produce and distribute it. If you act in defiance of the law, they withhold it. So now you're literally going through chemical withdrawal, shaking, begging, saying, please, I'll do anything. And when you finally submit to their demands, they give you the drug. So heroin was just basically, something that would cause a physiological withdrawal symptom in you, something to make you freak out. That's basically, it's an analogy for what they do. They make you dependent upon them. Then once you are, they say, do as we say or else. And people are like, okay, I'll do whatever you say. Just please give me the money and give me the food. In cities, you can't grow your own food. What are you going to do? Grow on your roof? If you own property, probably don't own property. So people are dependent upon having this job. You got to get out of these cities, man. Yeah. You got to get out of these cities.
Well, you can't just grow your own food, but you can't also just start a business. It's becoming more and more difficult because of the blue tape, because of the government officials, because of these bureaucrats that are running around, and they're literally making sure that small businesses, independent businesses, are finding it absolutely impossible to actually get a fair shake at the market. We don't have capitalism right now. We have top-down socialism for the super rich. The super rich are being financed in ways that we couldn't even imagine, especially when you look at the Federal Reserve bailouts that are happening right now, especially if you look at Amazon, Walmart. They don't have to follow any of these ridiculous rules. They're allowed to be open. They flaunt, their businesses everywhere. They're promoted. I was talking to a young kid at the grocery store that was bagging the groceries, and we were just casually just talking about, well, you have to do what you got to do. We got to keep everyone safe. And I'm like, well, did you ever wonder why you can't have Thanksgiving, but you could have Black Friday? And he's like, whoa, I never thought about that. And it's absolutely ridiculous to see these politicians wage a war on family members coming together and eating together as one cohesive family unit. Buying a TV from
the box store is okay.
But I was in New York City for Thanksgiving, visiting family. I went out to Best Buy, literally lines down the block, garages filled, individuals standing next to each other, touching the same door, touching the same products, all cuddled in together. And that somehow gets your stamp of approval. That's okay, but gathering with family is not. And I think there's a huge another thing that you were talking about, the kind of corporate overlord control of being dependent on government. I think another key pillar of that is breaking down the family unit, which not a lot of people talk about. Yeah, Black Lives Matter is a part of it, as they had previously on their mission statement a direct
disrupt the modern family.
Yes, to disrupt the modern family. When you have
traditional family.
Yeah, traditional family. When you have a traditional modern family, you have something that is a very strong unit that's not easy to control or dominate or take advantage of. You have individuals that help each other out, that are there for each other, and are strong. They want you like that magazine cover.
It's the Borg.
Yeah, they want you sitting alone with that cat, surrounded by Amazon
Yorker.
boxes,
Yes.
drinking your sorrows away, disconnected from the world. Meanwhile, you're on the internet in this digital little box that you get to kind of lose your identity to.
Black Mirror, dude.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're living in.
Stay in your box.
Yeah. And that's what they want. And whether this is done because of a grand conspiracy or whether this is done by accident, it's happening and it needs to stop. And we need to have a real conversation about how to prevent it. And I think the family unit, I think culture, I think that's the key elements here that we absolutely need to take advantage of.
Didn't Donald Trump want to appoint some lady who wanted to, he tried to appoint some lady who wanted to get on the gold standard?
Yes.
And then they blocked. They were like, no, get out of here.
So, yes. So with incidences like that, I could totally understand the Trump optimism. I had some of it myself. And I think that was an amazing, even though he didn't get it through, it was still a symbolic move that makes people believe that there's something possible, that something could change. And I think that's important.
If Trump was going along with all of these plans, he'd have won. They'd have been like, we support him. Oh yeah,
Well, the mainstream media wouldn't be attacking him for every little thing, whether it's 2 scoops of ice cream or having toilet paper on his shoe. They wouldn't be attacking him so viciously if he was. So that's another important element.
Remember when he fired those missiles into Syria and they were like, Trump is acting very presidential now.
Yes.
How many civilians did he kill?
Yeah, Brian Williams talked about how beautiful it was to see these missiles fly through the air. I mean, how sick and of a despotic individual do you have to be to be celebrating the war machine and to be in awe of missiles flying to
bombs
destroy
bursting in
other
air,
human
man.
beings?
That's the national anthem is explosive bombs in the air. That's what we celebrate as a country. It's crazy.
But isn't that about the revolution?
That's when we were under attack.
Yeah, it was about us defending ourselves and fighting back.
Yeah,
that's
we were
when
the good
American
guys.
people went against a 3% tax.
Bombs bursting in air, man.
When you're talking about people coming here to oppress and suppress and attack our families,
kids don't know that. When kids sing bombs bursting in air, they're getting indoctrinated, dude.
No, listen. Sure, then it's your responsibility to make sure they understand defensive versus offensive.
Whose responsibility?
Everyone's.
The government?
Parents.
No, I said
the
yours.
people that force the kids to
Ian,
sing it?
You. Tell
As
the
a
kid.
7-year-old?
No, you tell them now. It is your responsibility to ensure the next generation has a good opportunity for a future. It is incumbent upon us, the current array of adults, to be like, kids, here's what you need to understand. We don't want to celebrate firing Tomahawk missiles into a foreign country. We want to celebrate us standing up against the largest empire in the world, saying, F you, those are our bombs, get out of our country. Because we're a country of people who say, leave us alone, let us do our thing.
Who would you consider the largest empire in the world?
Now? I mean, arguably the U.S., but China's poised to take over. What China is doing in Africa and South America, oil exploration, the property they're buying up. China owns huge swaths of Western land in the United States. They're buying up property all over Brazil. It is absolutely ridiculous.
And Canada as well. I remember being in Africa, and there was a bunch of just Chinese people all over the place. And I'm like, what's going on here? I was in Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Somalia.
It's colonization.
There was Chinese people in Somalia looking for economic opportunities there.
Listen.
And I talked to a lot of local Africans, and all of them came up to me, and the larger sentiment from the vast majority of them is that the Chinese are the new colonizers. Yep. They are here, they're taking over, and they are.
So it's literal colonization. In China, the conditions are getting bad. There's a lot of pollution. There's a lot of carbon emissions, smoke. You know that famous photo where they have the screen that has the sun on it because it's just brown all day with just smog. So people naturally are emigrating. And this is modern, or I guess they call it neocolonialism. It's not like the government says we want to send boats out and take over the world. It's regular people in China saying, I want to find a better life. So they're moving to all these different parts of the world and their culture is rooting in these places. And for the most part, it's fine. But when COVID breaks out, the Chinese government sent out a message, sent out word to a lot of their citizens, buy up PPE and send it back to China. And they did. So they started extracting our resources from our communities because they were lying to the World Health Organization, lying to us. And then when COVID hit, we didn't have the supplies we need. We've been giving them our manufacturing base. And you know what it is? It's an exploit. And it's the fault. It is a weakness of the American system. Politicians are in on the take. Professors are in on the take. It is so easy to just say this big corporation is gonna lobby on my behalf, and they probably got some international connection, but the politicians don't care. They just say, give me the keys to the castle. I want to be rich and famous. I want to have my mark in history. I don't care about you, your family, or this country. That's why you end up with politicians that literally don't care and would see us enter the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
When you say like the greatest empire, I want to hear what you think.
I have a couple points I definitely want to add to what you were saying there, Tim, because it is scary that they're buying up industries and taking over, but it's also really scary to see the impact that they have on our modern culture, on our entertainment, and our news. When you see the slanted coverage, when you see the manipulations, when you see the World Health Director not even being able to recognize Taiwan, when you see Hollywood movies censor out any kind of criticism, any kind of even hypothetical fight with China.
Or when a Hollywood movie actually draws the South China Sea as territory of China in their film. Remember that?
Exactly. And we have to understand China is an expanding empire, and one of the reasons they're expanding is because geopolitically they are in a poor position. This is why they're expanding to the South Chinese Sea. This is why they're using microwave weapons on the Indian border right now in disputed territory, because they need to expand their empire, because historically they have always been conquered because they are stuck on this one landmass. There's a lot of desert. There isn't a lot of natural water. There isn't a lot of natural farming land. They're literally re-engineering an entire huge section of China to be farmland, turning it from desert. Will it work? Who knows? But they lack a lot of resources. This is why they're doing the Belt and Road Initiative, the new Silk Road. This is why they're building military islands. So if there is a potential conflict, they have these trade routes. They're in charge of them. And if you look at major world wars, they have always happened with trade routes.
This country welded people's the Communist Party. They welded people's doors shut during COVID, and then later on opened them up, and there were the people lying dead on the ground. That's what they were doing. They were like, there's videos of them dragging people screaming out of their homes. They are an authoritarian communist regime. People can't speak freely. They live under the boot. These people want control of everything. And the question I ask people is, in 50 years, on the track we're on, China will be the dominant global culture. Would you rather live under a Chinese system or an American system? Well, most people say, of course, American system for all its faults. Okay, that means we have to do something right now, because they're buying up land all over the planet. They're buying up resources. They're stripping us of our resources during pandemics. What do? If Joe Biden becomes president, we know he flew on Air Force 2 to China with his son, which is already a huge conflict of interest, negotiating some Chinese private equity deal. Why would Joe Biden go against his business partners? Well, not his personally. As the Wall Street Journal said, there was no role for Joe Biden. But is Joe Biden going to screw over his son, who has this beautiful equity deal out of China? No. Look at, was it LeBron James, I think? Am I calling it the right guy? Yeah. Who was basically defending China?
Yeah.
Yes.
You look at, was it Steve Kerr? These NBA guys were like, well, I don't know a whole lot about China. I mean, if they want to, put a bunch of Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps, they want to make money. That is the exploit. The NBA says we make so much money in China, it's so big, we're just going to say, whatever. And we're going to agree with their despotic authoritarianism. China right now is operating concentration camps. No joke, no lie, no exaggeration. They're harvesting organs of people. Joe Biden gets in. What does he say? Well, they're not our enemies. No, we're going to work with them.
China's
it's great.
Doing their thing.
He's going to get us into the new it's the new TPP. I forget what it's called. And you are going to see your factories ship over to China faster than you can blink. Because what Joe Biden's talked about is raising the corporate tax rate. And they use this leftism lie to convince people it's a good idea. Why aren't these corporations? Come on, man. Pay your fair share. Why aren't they paying their fair share? What's their fair share? 39%. So you're a corporation. You got a bunch of employees. And he says, here's what we're going to do. Minimum wage for your company is going to go up by 30%. Also, we're going to raise your corporate tax rate by up 10%, up to 39%. Now these factories are going like, what are we going to do? We can't make ends meet. And then he's going to go, don't worry. If you make it overseas, you can ship it to the country for free. no tariffs, no taxes, free trade. And they go, okay, thank you. Okay, let's move to China. There's the cheap labor. No, you don't got to pay for unions. You don't got to pay for health care. These people breathe in smog and they're getting sick. And you ship it all back to the U.S. for super cheap. Made in China, baby. That's Biden.
And you have to realize companies like Apple, Nike, most of the products you buy on Amazon, all made in China. Some accusations, some reports are coming that it's coming from forced labors, coming from the Uyghur
and they
Muslims.
defended it, remember that?
And there are lobbying efforts by a lot of these multinational corporations to make sure that they could still continue the practice of receiving goods that are made from slaves, that are made from political dissidents, that are made from individuals who jaywalk. I mean, what's happening right now in China, especially with the social credit score, many globalists, many internationalists, many politicians are seeing, and they're salivating at the mouth. Many of these practices have already been duplicated here in the United States in democratically heavy cities like New York City, Los Angeles, and we are seeing it being carbon copied in very scary ways, where even in New York City, the government there is tracking you through your cell phone data to make sure that you quarantine and texting you if you come out of state. I mean, this
is why Donald Trump has to win. You want to hear it? I got it right here.
No,
Lydia just pulled it up. U.S. bans cotton imports from China producer XPCC citing Xinjiang slave labor. The Trump administration expanded economic pressure on China's western region of Xinjiang on Wednesday, banning cotton imports from a powerful Chinese quasi-military organization that it says uses the forced labor of detained Uyghur Muslims. Nightmarish.
Yep, and that population is going extinct. They're missing. No one knows exactly where they are.
Do you know what they're doing? Do you know why they're harvesting the organs?
Well, they could sell them on the international world market as well.
And you know who they sell them to? The people who need halal organs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Messed up.
So very wealthy individuals in the Middle East, they say, I need an organ transplant, and it can't come from anybody. So they have the Uyghur Muslims, and China's been doing nightmarish things. I mean, this is...
Re-education camps, total control grid society.
Load them up on trains.
Yep. Yeah.
Forced labor.
The video that came out with them in they had bags over their head. They were all wearing the same uniform. They were all kneeling down. There was a
prisoner
bunch of
transport, they said.
Yeah, I mean, that was absolutely horrifying. And I remember being in Hong Kong covering the protest there with Emily, and you felt this huge oppressive state and these people fighting for whatever way they could against it becoming there. But things we have to realize, the people of Hong Kong actually fought back at China, influencing them and taking control over them. Here in the United States, all the large corporations, all the mainstream media are cheering it on, clapping for it,
when you talk
wanting it, while saying they're a part of the resistance and they're a part of the protest movement. I mean, are you freaking kidding me?
It's really simple. Yeah. There are photos of people in Hong Kong waving Trump flags and American flags, and there are people in this country waving communist flags.
Yes.
When you talk,
real quick, sorry, I love the meme where it's like, can we trade? Like all the communists go, China, you want to, bring these people into the party, and then we'll take the people in Hong Kong who are like, go Trump, go America, we love freedom, right? How about that?
Yeah, I love the people in Hong Kong. They were absolutely incredible. I have to say, like, my experiences covering those protests have been absolutely life-changing. They know, I mean, the way that they acted, I mean, they even, did stuff that, is questionable, but the way they acted is so different than Antifa. Right. Antifa, usually if they see a reporter filming, they beat the crap out of him, they arrest him, they try to intimidate him, they scare him, whatever it is. There, they just had a whole bunch of people holding umbrellas, and if they were changing outfits or doing something that was deemed illegal by the Chinese state, they just put up a whole bunch of umbrellas everywhere, and they didn't need to fight everyone because you couldn't take a photo or a video of it. No pushing, no shoving, no anger, and they made sure that journalists who were reporting on them actually got the story. They weren't trying to suppress them, they weren't trying to stop it. They knew that getting their message out was extremely important. I remember walking down during a very tense moment, and they're like, this is press, make sure he goes to the front line so he sees everything that's happening, as literally they were trying to take over the airport.
Yeah.
And here you would never have that in the United States. And the way that they just, made sure that their optics were good, which is what they were doing, the way that they were fighting is really something that should be somewhat commendable, should be something that should be kind of looked up to and replicated as something that is a lot better than what we have right now with Antifa cheering on the multinational corporations and beating the crap out of anyone who dares question them.
When they talk about international relations and cooperation, when they talk about Trump being isolationist or nationalist, what they're really talking about is they want the U.S. to capitulate to China, period. So there's something I reference a lot. It's called Thucydides' trap. This idea that as a rising economic power is about to displace the current economic power, war breaks out. And so one of the theories is that the U.S. is basically saying it's better to lay down and roll over onto and expose our bellies to China and just say, just take it. We don't want to go to war because war would be bad for everybody. China says, okay. So the question then is, which world do you want to live in? One where there are concentration camps for religious minorities, where they harvest their organs and sell them, or a country like America where we have those problems in the past, but now that would never fly.
Yep.
The left will probably cite the
native reservations.
No, the detention centers.
Biden's even proposed Secretary of State literally previously made arguments saying that the United States should not step in the way of a rising China, and that it's going to be beneficial economically if China does rise, and we should help and assist them as they rise. This is literally some of the talking points that are going to be exemplified and done by this Biden administration.
When we're talking about
Ian, go ahead.
empire, and you said the United States and China as the two greatest empires, I'm thinking, like, where's the money coming from? Because I think you're talking about the Bank of International Settlements. You said the IMF.
What do you mean the money?
Like, where's China getting their money? The Federal Reserve of New York.
They just fake it.
The United States is getting it, printing it fiat from the Federal Reserve of New York.
And the Chinese Communist Party prints and manipulates their currency as well.
So they probably, I don't know what their central bank is. I think they do have a central bank, which they all feed through the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland. So the Swiss bank, I feel like, is the real empire, and that's why the media is using the American military to bankrupt. Well, to basically enforce the bankruptcy of the United States and the disillusionment and they're giving Chinese people all this fiat currency to go buy up land all over the world, and probably oligarchs in the United States.
Zero interest loans that they're giving to the Chinese people to go up and buy stuff, and they are, and it's unfair for a lot of other people. But I would have to question you on that, because when you look at the larger geopolitical moves that China has been making, especially with the yuan, especially with propositions for the SDR, especially with major moves against the U.S. petrodollar, you see a lot of significant moves economically that China has already been making. So I do believe we are already in a trade war. I think we're also very close to a currency war, and the next step is potentially eventual war, which I think should be prevented at all costs.
China wants Taiwan. They've been doing beaching drills. The U.S. did what's it called, an elephant march or whatever, or elephant walk, where all the bombers were in Guam,
Yep,
and
then they did military exercises.
But then they retreated. The U.S. had to retreat because they were like, China has a weapon that could wipe out all of our air assets.
Yeah, China's literally conducting military drills about their takeover of Taiwan near Taiwan. Yep. And then the World Health Organization doesn't even want to recognize Taiwan as an official country. Yep. Now that's terrifying, because that's the World Health Organization not recognizing a country, because the country that partly funds them or has a lot of influence over them just doesn't want them to exist and wants to take them over. And one of the first things I said when Biden was, allegedly the winner, is that this is extremely bad news for the people of Taiwan. The people of Taiwan are in for a very rude awakening.
Dude, China is going to storm the beaches of Taiwan, and Biden's going to go, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
China's got the People's Bank of
China.
China.
Shop under pressure.
It's their federal bank. Is the People's Bank of China. It's not a federal bank. It's their fiat, their central bank, and then that goes through the Bank of International Settlements.
They manipulate their currency so that
it's all going through
the foreign trade is
It's all going
BS.
through Swiss Bank of International Settlements. It's all extrajudiciarily, like, no government has any oversight over this Bank of International Settlements.
And we have to understand, it was global elites. Henry Kissinger literally wrote the China policy that has codified and put us in this exact position. So to have him lobbying and supposedly, telling the presidency what to do here is absolutely the wrong thing to do. He's making a lot of statements. He recently came out in an expose talking about how Biden needs to be very light on China. This is, again, the same person tied in with all the multinational corporations, all the inner elites, all the people, I have to say it, part of the Bilderberg meeting, that come together, that benefit off of this kind of open China, this kind of manufacturing plant, this slave labor plant that makes goods very, very cheap. This major deindustrialization, this major demanufacturing of the United States, losing these blue-collar jobs was the beginning of it, and it's only escalating from here and has yet to be...
So they want to...
They came out and said, the World Economic Forum, the Davos group, Great Reset, it's happening, baby. And it is. And Democratic governors are doing it. They're defying the Constitution. When the Supreme Court ruled that Cuomo could not shut down religious services, he said
it's irrelevant.
Well, that executive order is expired, so we can do a new thing. We can do what we want. And that's what they do. He'll make a new one, take me to court, and he'll keep doing it. The problem is the cops who just say, please, Cuomo, can I lick your boots? That's what they're doing.
There have been some sheriffs speaking out against it and haven't been following the policies.
Big city cops are different from the sheriffs.
Exactly. But there are a lot of individuals that are absolutely just blind and are doing what they're told. And imagine being a police officer and going to a guy's business and putting him in handcuffs because he wants to make a living for his children. Yep. Imagine that karma. Imagine having to go through that. Now, not all police officers are bad, but there needs to be a big reckoning, especially with this larger thing that has been happening all year long.
Is China locked down right now?
No, they're doing huge pool parties. Yeah,
our economy is being destroyed.
Shut down, not locked down.
People are more free in Wuhan, China right now
down?
than they are in New York City.
Yeah. I don't know.
Which is mind-boggling. How are people more free in Wuhan than they are in New York City?
Yep.
And we have to. Another point that I really wanted to kind of make here is for people to understand that, a lot of this is done voluntarily. A lot of these officers are just saying, yeah, sure, I'm going to take the path of least resistance. I'm going to do what I'm told.
That's how it always is, just following orders.
And the main reason why there wasn't a lot of support for the police earlier this year was because they were instituting a lot of these ridiculous lockdowns. And then when the protests happening, when the riots happening, there was a factor of individuals saying, I don't care. These are the same officers robbing me blind, taking advantage of me, destroying my livelihood because of a politician's decree.
Bro, we're frogs in a pot.
It's boiling.
The water is already boiling, and we're sitting in it. And it is, you know what I think it is? I don't think that, if I was to say there's a grand conspiracy, it's just China trying its best to subvert the U.S., and they've been doing it for a long time.
It's the global banking establishment using America and China against each other.
No.
They're both funneling money through China and the United States.
There are wealthy multinational elites that benefit off of those countries.
The Bank of International Settlements. You got to look into it.
That doesn't explain China's military power and expansion. China's not beholden to anybody when they go and blow people up and lock people in concentration camps.
That communist Uno party is crazy. Any country that has a single party that's a communist regime is
I remember during Occupy Wall Street,
or any type of government if it's a single party.
Let me give you an analogy. During Occupy Wall Street, there was a General Assembly meeting, and everyone was trying to figure out what the real problem that everyone needed to fight was. And then all of a sudden, some guy stood up, just this old guy, like in his 50s, super angry, and went, "What is wrong with you people? It's fracking. Fracking is everything." And I started laughing. Like, this guy has no idea what's going on in the world. He thinks fracking is it? When you talk about the global banking establishment, you're talking about a handful of people who are getting rich off of laughing at those who are fighting each other, not the people controlling it. So you're talking about the Bank of International Settlements. You're talking about people saying, you guys blow each other up as long as I can exchange the money and take a cut. They're not in charge. They're just profiting off of it.
Big time.
China
they're
is
the ones
the
that are
rising
loaning
power.
us the money.
China is the rising power that manipulates currency and puts people in concentration camps to sell these people's organs, and they make our movies and they take our jobs. And what they've been doing is they've been compromising university professors through their what is it called? 1,000
currents.
1,000 currents?
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
I think so.
No, could you fact check that? Because
sure.
I think the 1,000
for the
currents,
professors.
I think that's the Black Lives Matter organization. 1,000 currents.
Oh,
I'm not
1,000
sure.
talents.
1,000 talents.
Yeah, there you
right.
go.
What is it?
So China is illegally giving grants to professors at U.S. universities all over the place. And Mike Pompeo said earlier this year that China has infiltrated every level of government. So you've got university professors lying, getting U.S. grant money to do research. And then China pays them to share their research with them. That's borderline treason, but you could call it actual treason if we were actually at war with China. They're not levying war against this country, so I don't know, subversion, espionage, whatever.
But there is a trade war happening, and it's expanding, and it's only going to get way worse.
And so I tell you what happens if Trump doesn't find a way to win. Joe Biden's he's on board, man.
He's going to sell out the American people to foreign corporations more than we're already been sold out.
But it's okay. It's okay. You're going to have your triple thick milkshake from McDonald's.
We have to repeal the Federal Reserve Act,
as your family dissolves.
We have to start our own
Well, they're
US
codifying
bank.
it with these lockdowns. They're codifying it by destroying any power individuals have. When we look at these lockdowns, they're also happening in very democratically, very anti-Second Amendment states. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous what's happening. And we have to look at this larger picture of what they're doing and the larger consequences and effects of them, and no one's really doing that.
I think I would not be surprised if under a Joe Biden administration the union starts to fracture. I mean, you were talking about the country splitting up. You look at South Dakota, Kristi Noem, she says, we're not locking down. Sorry, shut up. Joe Biden said, I'm going to listen to the science. He brings on Dr. Osterholm, who says, lock the country down. Nationwide lockdown, 6 weeks. What do you think is going to happen when South Dakota says, no, you're not doing it? Are they going to send in the feds? What are they going to do?
Well, I think the bigger conundrum, the bigger thing to really look at is some of the gun restrictions that Biden wants to pass.
Banning all online sales of accessories, ammo, and guns.
Now, when he codifies some laws that make it, illegal or make Americans felons overnight.
When the Democrats pass it and then he signs off on it.
Yes, that's why this, this battle that's happening in the Senate is something that people should be looking at. It's very significant, but that's also going to be a major, major situation that, again, that's why I've said, let's split up. People who believe in government, want bureaucrats and corporations ruling their lives. You go here. You want to be responsible for yourself. You want to be free. You want to be an individual that makes his own way, that has their own destiny, their own faith, their own life in their own hands. Go here. It sounds like a crazy idea, but what we have right now is absolutely crazier, and it's going to get even crazier from here.
Yes, it's these interests in the U.S. pledging fealty to China and saying we want to work like you do. It's so much easier. Just make us party leaders. It's like the invasion's happening, and they say, well, I could fight you. That's hard. I'll tell you what. Make me rich, and I'll sell out everybody else.
Yeah, they're swearing fealty to the dollar, man. They don't care about any country. Most
people
don't.
Excess.
It's the government is money in this world right now. That's the government.
No.
That's the one world government.
You make me rich, and I don't care what you do to other people.
Exactly.
That's what they're saying.
I don't care who my governor is if I can get a tax break. I mean, so many people think like that. So many people voted for Trump simply because he got him a tax break.
Well, government is essentially a leech on the people. That's how I see it as, and I think the more we move away from it, the more we become responsible for ourselves. It might be futile, but I think it's worth doing.
I disagree. If we had a country and a culture that was defending the Constitution, the government is absolutely vital and fantastic. If you take a big open space, let's say Montana, everybody flees these lockdowns. People are buying up property like crazy in Montana, Idaho, Iowa,
New Hampshire, Florida, Texas.
Most of the property that we're seeing spike is in like middle of nowhere places, Wyoming and Montana, right? These people go there. So let's say Joe Biden gets in and says, we're just going to keep doing these deals. We're going to sell you out. Your job's going away. And then you've got people saying, leave me out of it. I don't like government. Who unifies and unites for the common defense up against China? Or when U.S. interests are essentially like the NBA. Like we had major corporations in the U.S. basically saying we're sorry, China, all like the past several years.
The Houston
begging
Rockets.
them.
Yeah, the Houston Rockets apologized.
Blizzard, one of the biggest video games, Hearthstone, booting some guy out because he held up a sign saying, Free Hong Kong. Yep. And then LeBron, I think it was LeBron. I want to be careful. I don't want to drag somebody.
He said something about how great China was.
Yeah. He repeatedly keeps defending them. So when that influence comes into the United States, where they're telling you, no, China's great, ignore what they're doing.
One problem is
without government, without a unified culture where we provide resources and pool them for the common defense, there's no organizing a bunch of random people. You know what's going to happen? People are going to flee. It's what's happening now. You've got Cuomo and DeBlasio eviscerating New York state and city. So what happens? The people who say this is wrong leave. They leave. They're gone.
I left. Yeah, I left. I went to New Hampshire. I love it there, and it's absolutely, completely 180 degrees different than New York.
This means they've won. They're violating the Constitution in that state. It's been ruled they're violating the Constitution, and they don't care, and there's no one there who's going to challenge them, who's going to sue them. They're just leaving.
Heshi Tischler.
Heshi's there.
Heshi, that's true. Yeah, Heshi's tearing things up.
People like Heshi, too.
Yeah, Heshi was great. He's fighting back.
Hey, I wanted to point out about China that it's really the Communist Party, the CCP, that's the problem, not the Chinese people. And I think China gets a bad reputation. That's what that means, a bad rep. And it's the CCP that's the problem. The Chinese people are pretty awesome. They're just misinformed, it seems like.
Well, they're under the rule of a dictatorship.
Dude, that's so crazy.
We've become the United States became too complacent, and we started electing politicians based on the D and the R, and that was exploited. And now I don't know if there's a way out.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Cultural Revolution in China, you look at the way that played out. You look at the history of it, and you look at modern day history. holy cow. I mean, that's a big pill to swallow there and wake up. So if you have some time and you have, I mean, this is, I think, one of the reasons why my shirt says, if you know history, if you trust government, you don't know history. And when you
remember when they poisoned alcohol during Prohibition and killed all those people?
Exactly. to enforce this asinine idea that Prohibition works, it doesn't. I mean,
they were like, people are drinking our ethanol, so let's put methanol in it. Then people started dying.
Yeah. To me, it all comes down to either you believe that there is a good government, that they're going to take care of you, or you believe in yourself as an individual. And I think those individuals are exemplified. Those individuals go into leadership places, and I think there is a middle ground that we could reach that begins with an individual. And I think that's why it's very important for individuals to look at farming, to look at alternatives, to get to know their neighbors, to stock up, because I'm telling you, the next few months, the next few years, they're not going to be that favorable towards people. I don't know how else to say it. I don't want to fearmonger, but
it's already, Live Nation. I think it was Live Nation or Ticketmaster saying, gotta get your vaccine status on your ticket. You want to go to the event? Organizers going to say they want the vaccine symbol on your ticket. Private corporations like Walmart. Here's my prediction. Walmart's going to say, they're already saying now, you have to wear a mask if you want to come in. You have to wear a mask. You can't come in. You don't wear a mask. The videos are popping up where people are screaming at other people who are not wearing masks. Eventually, when the vaccine comes out, they're going to be like, you got to have your vaccine app. You can't come in without your vaccine app. You put it on your phone, you get your QR code. If you don't have it, you can't come in, whatever. Just go get it. It's free. It's free. The government says they're going to give it to you for free. Just get it. I think vaccines are fantastic. I think they're wonderful technology. But I have concerns about this culturally mandated medication of people.
For sure. Dude, I just saw a commercial about Roundup. That was Monsanto's flagship.
Oh, and it was
herbicide.
Like, if you use Roundup, call Johnson
it's like
Law.
16 years later, they're finding out that it's causing all this cancer in people. Now there's class actions. So a rushed vaccine. I mean, 10 years. What about in 12 years? How are we going to see some sort of repercussions? I'm not.
An experimental rushed vaccine that big pharma companies are exempt from any liability from. So I'm sorry, but if you're putting your full faith into that. That's going to be mandated for individuals. I mean, it's going to be mandated by the corporations. Like we saw the CEO of Qantas recently propose, if you want to fly, you're going to have the vaccine stamp. I mean, again, there's a new study that came out that showed that 40% of health professionals in the United States, according to the CDC, are skeptical of this and plan not to take the vaccine.
To be reasonable, when I traveled to Venezuela, you have to have a vaccine card. Because there's like yellow fever and typhoid and stuff. So you gotta go to the doctor. They give you a card. They approve it. You get your vaccinations. I'm down. I think vaccinations are amazing. We wiped out so many diseases. The issue I have is that if within our own country you can't go to the store unless you have to have some kind of medication. I mean, that's crazy. We're not talking about airborne Ebola. We're talking about 99.97% survival rate. People under 70 are mostly fine. And they want me to go get, medication.
Well, politicians are saying you need this. We're going to have the vaccine and everything's going to go back to normal. That's not how it's going to work. This is, again, experimental, rushed. There's two major pharma giants fighting for this. And if they get first to the market, they're going to get record amounts of profits.
Yep.
You think Big Pharma has a good record? Look what they did with the opioid epidemic.
Remember Bayer?
Look at medical doctors telling you that cigarettes are good for you. Medical doctors telling you about DDT.
Look at Dr. Fauci talking about schools. Look at Donald Trump saying early on, the science is on our side. The schools should be open. And now Fauci's saying, oh, actually, they were right the whole time.
Fauci telling you, don't wear the masks. The masks, don't worry. You're going to get more sick if you wear the masks. Now they're telling you need to wear them. It's absolutely insane.
Remember when Bayer gave everybody AIDS?
Yes. People forget about that.
Bayer owns Monsanto, by the way. What was that story?
Well, they bought Monsanto, and now they're a new kind of company that's getting sued to oblivion because they're finding out that Roundup, was linked to cancer. And now there's major record settlements of individuals getting millions of dollars, and there's thousands of them coming forward with these recorded cancer cases showing how Bayer lied and tried to cover up the fact that they knew this was happening, and when they knew this was happening, they continued it. And this is the same company that had medicine that had AIDS in it that they knowingly knew, and they
HIV?
still continued to sell because they saw the profits from it as less of a liability than actually stopping of sending this medicine. There's an insane clip of this happening, and now you want to trust Big Pharma when they have no liability with this vaccine. And another thing to really consider here is
check it out from CBS. Bayer admits it paid millions in HIV infection cases, just not in English. This is from 2011.
Whoa.
To read the English-speaking media, you'd never know that Bayer just paid tens of millions of dollars to end a 3-decade-long scandal in which the company sold HIV-contaminated blood products to hemophiliacs, thousands of whom later died of AIDS. I am not saying the vaccine is going to do anything like this. I am not saying the vaccine is bad. I'm saying, in fact, vaccines are awesome.
There was a
very, very awesome.
There was a conspiracy.
But hold on. It's mandated medication I don't like.
Yeah, you don't even have to, make that argument. Look at how the government failed at sending everyone $1,200. Look at how the government fails at the post office, the DMV. Look how the government fails at basic human functions. Look how they can't even, set up a lockdown that they can't follow themselves. You trust these individuals for your complicated medical process that's the first ever in its kind.
Luke. I think you guys are over just too much on this one. I defer.
No. Stop. I'm not even saying it's bad.
No, stop.
Yeah.
I defer to Cuomo, to Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden.
The experts.
I don't trust Donald Trump. I don't trust Donald Trump to approve this.
Dude,
okay?
DDT's
That's
another
what they said.
one. You brought up DDT a little bit ago. Can you explain?
Well, before I do that, I just want to make the point. The government can't even figure out how to send you a check. They can't even figure out how to test people.
They were sending checks to foreign citizens in other countries? That's amazing.
They can't get that right.
Yeah, no
they
joke.
figured out this complicated 4-layer schedule that people still didn't get. I know individuals that still didn't get the checks, and now you trust these individuals to do a complicated medical procedure that they're going to have to do multiple times?
Yeah, listen. The likelihood, in my opinion, that this vaccine comes out and then we see some it's either a conspiracy or it causes widespread problems. I really don't think that's the case. I think the vaccine's going to come out. Everyone's going to be fine.
Why do you think that?
How crazy would it be that they roll this vaccine and then everyone turns into a zombie or something? It's just not going to happen. People are going to be fine. It's a vaccine.
We don't know the long-term effects. There was never a vaccine like this ever in medical history. So this is a first of its kind new type of vaccine that, again, we don't know 10 years, 20 years.
RNA vaccine.
Listen. It's really simple as this. If you trust your doctor knows best for you. Me personally, I'm going to chill for a little bit, just like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Cuomo said. It was Cuomo who came out and said it. And I said, that's actually a really good idea. He said, I'm going to wait a little bit. And I was like, I trust Cuomo on this one.
No. My plan is, I think when the vaccine comes out, the first people that need to get it, absolutely, this is a win-win case, is the politicians. Give it to all the politicians. Now, if they become sick and something bad happens to them, they won't be politicians, and and then everything good. If they're fine, we'll know that everything will be okay.
They're not going to get sick. It's not going to happen. They're going to give it to older people first.
They're going to give it to the people that took the trials first, the double-blind trials, and then they're going to give it to medical professionals next.
Right. That was what I've heard. Then they were saying it's going. Then once the essential workers, it goes to the most vulnerable. I think it's going to be fine. I think we're talking about COVID, which has a survival rate of 99.9%. It's 97.5 for people above 70. I think what people need to understand too about the rapidness of this vaccine trial, it's bipartisan. I don't think there's look.
But there's a lot of malarkey involved with it as well. The placebo is not actually a saline placebo like it's supposed to be. It's not something that does. It's another vaccine that does have side effects. So again, I'm not. You might be right. You might be absolutely right.
It could be awesome, actually.
But I think it's best in this case to be skeptical.
I disagree. I think, partly disagree. Like I said, I'm going to chill and wait.
Yeah.
When I heard the Democrats come out and say this is rushed, I was like, you know what? If we don't have unified left and right in this country saying we reviewed this, there's actually Democrats providing the doubt, then I can be like, well, they're the ones who are supposed to be cheering for it. So I'll chill out. But here's what I'm saying. We've been developing vaccines for a long time. We've got the coronavirus is COVID is another in the long line of coronaviruses we've dealt with. I think here's what I think. I think it's gonna be fine. I think it's gonna help a lot of people.
Dude, it could be awesome. It's an RNA vaccine.
I just don't like the idea that they're saying It's a mandate. I don't like the idea that Ticketmaster said we're going to put the symbol on your tickets.
Well, like
or
you
that
said,
Qantas said you can't fly unless you have it.
Going to foreign countries and getting vaccinated.
If you don't want to get sick, you get vaccinated.
But
right?
you have to get vaccines to go to some countries.
For some countries, for some reasons, dude. I went to Venezuela and I got like 5 or 6 shots.
I was there
I'm
too.
fine. I'm totally fine.
I didn't need to take
cool
the shots.
So it's
but I don't know. Maybe I went later after you. So you went.
I had to show him a card.
I did not.
I had a vaccination card.
I would have printed one out.
I went to the doctor and he was like, "We're gonna do, here's how the yellow fever one that hurt."
Yeah.
It goes sideways into your skin very slowly because it has to go into your skin for it to work. And I'm like, it wasn't that bad.
Subcutaneous.
Yeah, something like that. So this was 8 years ago.
This new vaccine's kind of interesting because the regular vaccine works is they'll inject you with a little bit of the virus or whatever to get your body to produce an immune response.
That's what a vaccine is.
Well, these new ones don't. They don't actually inject the virus. They make your body think that it has the virus and then it has the response. So it might be way safer. There has never been a
vaccine for coronavirus ever. SARS, MERS, whatever. There never was. So the fact that it's the first ever in its kind, I think skepticism is your best friend. I think taking care of yourself. I think a pragmatic.
Take it from Cuomo, bro. You wait. Listen. Cuomo said wait. And then once it goes through proper approval and you wait a little bit. Not only that.
I'm going to do a little bit more than waiting.
Hold on. You guys need to realize, too, you're not getting the vaccine. They're not going to give it to you. We are strapping young, virile men. They're not going to, young-ish. They're not going to give us the vaccine anyway. So what are you worried about?
Depends if we're in the Chinese-made FEMA camps. But do you know about the 1976 swine flu vaccine and that entire fiasco?
No.
Lydia, look it up.
The swine flu vaccine?
The swine flu 1976 vaccine fiasco that happened where the government
50 some odd years
ago. What was the situation?
Well, there was allegedly, I don't know the exact details of it, so I don't want to speak out of hand, but it was another situation where there was supposedly this deadly virus going around. The government forced this vaccine, which caused irreversible damage on a lot of individuals, and then they covered up and lied about what actually happened.
But do you really think, whether
this is by accident or whether it's a conspiracy, we don't know. But I'm saying historically, when something is first of its kind, we don't know what we're getting into. I think it's best to.
You got nothing to worry about. You know why? You can be skeptical. That's fine. I'm totally fine with that. But the first, like you mentioned, it's going to go to the people who already got the trial, right?
Yeah.
Then it's going to go to medical professionals. Then it's going to go to the most vulnerable. So you got nothing to worry about. And the people who are most vulnerable got nothing to worry about either because a lot of these people are older already and they're like, I could die from COVID or get a vaccine, whatever, get the vaccine. And guess what? Then you'll know when the older people get the vaccine if something bad happens because you're not going to get it for a long time. They were saying on the news that young people are they're not even on the list right now of priority. Like people who are under, I think 50, not even on a priority list at all.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we're not worried that the survival rate is 99.7 or whatever. Once we take care of the vulnerable, we're probably going to be fine. You're probably not going to need it.
You only need to vaccinate 60% of the population to have herd immunity.
Well, I think it was 80. I think that was the exact term. But
look, I'll tell you this. I don't trust big corporations who are driven by no bid contract.
They make profit and they can't get in trouble for it. What's that law that got passed that says the corporations can't be sued for vaccines?
Well, there's a specific order that right now vaccine companies, when they're making the coronavirus vaccine, there's no liability at all.
They could kill 100 million people and there's no liability.
Come on.
No,
and
literally,
there's already similar laws with other vaccines in the United States.
Listen,
because they wouldn't. The argument is they wouldn't produce it if there was too much risk.
I just maybe it's normalcy bias. It's not gonna.
Dude, I've heard this crazy conspiracy theory that HIV was introduced to the population through a botched MMR vaccine in the 80s. Have you guys heard that?
If we really wanted to deal with this thing, we would be talking about zinc, vitamin D, sleeping, eating a proper diet, exercising, but we're not hearing any of that.
I'll tell you. You want to know what I think?
Vitamin D.
You want to know
vitamin D is key.
I'll tell you what I think. You want to know what I think?
I do.
I think COVID has a 99.9% survival rate for most non-vulnerable people, most people under 70. I think they produced a vaccine that was. Why was it mass produced? Because it was probably really easy. And I'll tell you what the real motive is. The vaccine is going to be fine. It's going to be safe. It's going to help the vulnerable. And these companies are going to make billions of dollars off of something that isn't as bad as they're making it out to be. When they were like, oh, COVID, it's going to be really bad. We had a bad COVID wave. It was really, really bad earlier this year. And then it seems like we kind of got over it for the most part. Things are getting bad now, But now we're getting these weird stories like where that woman got the left nostril negative and the right nostril positive.
Yeah.
Or Elon Musk.
Yeah, like negative,
What was his
positive, positive,
story?
negative.
Oh.
What's happening now is they're exploiting it. The vaccine's going to be fine because it's based on technology. They're probably already like, I know what's happening. It's what's really the big concern I have is guaranteed no bid contracts. I am not concerned about a vaccine. I'm going to chill out. I'm not going to even get it for a long time anyway because we're not allowed to get it. What I'm looking at is the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the planet. The vaccine is part of that. Guaranteed revenue from the government, that's our tax dollars, and printing money, devaluing our currency, being sent to big pharmaceutical companies, the shutting down of our small businesses and money going to big corporations. I think the arguments about vaccines and the fear over it is the wrong direction.
I think you're right about that.
No, I agree. The largest transfer of wealth that's happening right now is the big issue, is the big elephant in the room that people need to address.
And I'll tell you what the problem is when people, when even we talk about vaccines and we're like, oh, but these corporations, it's going to scare people into not getting the medication their doctor would recommend. No, we want them to do that. I think that's the wrong direction. I think the creepy thing is our government said, we will guarantee you $2 billion if you do this. And they're all just going like, hot dog, let's do it. Our money guaranteed to them. Well, people get the vaccine free of charge. Sure. What's happening is COVID is being used as an excuse right now by a lot of people to destroy the economy. And this is just one more aspect of what's destroying our economy.
You were saying something about Federal Reserve bailouts earlier. What was that?
Well, right now, when we're seeing huge hedge funds that are connected to Ben Bernanke, Timothy Geithner, and all these other top big bank officials, we're seeing a large swamp of money that's being sent directly to them for these larger kind of bailout packages that have been happening months ago, specifically during the summer, in order to make sure that the stock market keeps going. There's a huge amount of liquidity just being directly pumped into these large hedge funds, these large banks that, again, always have their losses socialized. Their profits, they're privatized. And this is happening on an extreme level, record number of levels, especially right now in the United States, especially with the Federal Reserve, especially with Wall Street banks that are just literally at the teeth of the federal government right now, sucking off the wealth of the U.S. dollar.
So all the devaluation is kind of getting masked by the economy shut down. So people can't tell that there's mass inflation from all this money printing.
If you look at when you go to the grocery store, you see prices fluctuating. You see prices change, and they have been changing throughout the years. We haven't even noticed it. If you look at the cost of silver a couple decades ago, what it would buy you compared to what it buys you now, there's a huge disparity. There's a huge difference, and I think it's absolutely clear that what we're having as a financial economic system is this fairy tale world where there's a witch behind the screen, and it's literally imaginary make-believe land where we have banksters just pressing zero, giving it to themselves in this private quasi-system called the Federal Reserve, just rewarding themselves for absolutely no reason at all. A lot of these people who are getting money aren't doing anything. They're just siphoning around zeros in their computers, and that's supposedly something that we're supposed to pay for. That's something that they're getting profit off of. If you look at Wall Street, if you look at the larger financial game, it is rigged. It is rigged by the very powerful that are making money hand over fist. Meanwhile, everyone else is struggling to survive. And that Ponzi scheme, that game is unfolding, and it's playing out, and there's going to be some severe, real consequences, especially with these lockdowns, especially with these resets that are going to be astronomical. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, to extreme levels where our society is totally going to be flipped upside down, and it's going to be something that we have never seen before.
It's time for Super Chats. It was time for Super Chats a while ago.
Yeah,
we got to do Super Chats.
Good conversation.
Jacob Lloyd says, with how Michael Flynn was railroaded with the extrajudicial prosecution by the FBI and Judge Sullivan, I can see why he would share the tweet. If it's possible, you guys should have on Viva Frey. COVID lockdowns, hard to do. Yeah, Canada.
I hear a lot about Viva Frey.
You should smash that like button if you haven't already and subscribe. Let's see. Eric Crouch says he doesn't look like Putin. Bill Maher, totally.
Yes, I get that a lot too. Bill Maher, Putin,
Bill Maher,
and Assange. If
that'd be a great show.
All of them had a love child.
I'd love to get all you guys on the show.
Ramen Nobra says this guest is a young Bill Maher. Talks like him too. Thanks for having the show, guys. Stay safe and take care.
Heck yeah.
That's funny.
I get that a lot.
Is it the Jewish in you? Are you Jewish?
No, I'm not.
Is that like a off-color question?
Yes.
No.
I wonder if you and Bill Maher have ancient ancestry in common.
Could be.
Out.
I don't know. Where's he from?
Los Angeles, right?
Well, he lives there
No,
now.
like what's his ancestry?
Nope, no idea.
That'd be a good show. You and Bill on together.
We should have him on.
Will J says, Luke is a beautiful and amazing human being. We love you.
Well, that's how I start my show usually. I just scream.
Grendel Hall says, so Tim, what would have to happen before you left your bunker to use a weapon to save the Constitution? Honestly, I have no idea. I've had conversations about stuff like this and like talked about it. What's the best outcome? Should we just enter the TPP and give away all our jobs and just slowly boil?
Individuals take responsibility for themselves, move out away from the communist big inner city crap holes, start farming, start taking care of themselves, start building decentralized communities like they have in New Hampshire with the Free State Project, which I want to talk about extensively, especially with my survival training and all this other stuff, but I think we need another episode just to even talk about that.
You got an RV, basically.
Friday,
yes.
You got an RV and you decided to travel the world?
Travel, and I'm trying to do survival trainings all throughout the United
It's
States.
really cool.
Yes.
Evan Meshenik says, Sun Tzu, quote, be extremely subtle even to the point of formlessness. Be extremely mysterious even to the point of soundlessness. Thereby you can be the director of the opponent's fate. Antifa's playbook. Very interesting. A lot of people mentioning Viva Frei. Viva Frei is awesome. If you haven't, definitely check out Viva Frei's YouTube channel. It's VIVAFREI. Let's see. Warren says, hi, Tim. Look forward to the new stuff. Just wanted to highlight China tweeting fake images of the Australian military killing Afghan kids. Yup. J Mac says, funny Luke is saying this. I was just telling my wife that the schism is too great between political factions, and it's possible the only peaceful path is a split.
Telling you.
Make China very happy.
It wouldn't be peaceful, though.
Well, it depends. We could still keep the military, but people just go to the side that they want to be on.
People were yelling the whole time saying Luke was talking too low. His microphone was not loud
I
enough.
kept adjusting it. I'm sorry, everyone. I failed.
Let's see.
It's a conspiracy, Linda.
Yeah. Trying to mute.
Bryce Lane says, you're in the middle of the USA in southern Missouri. Stop saying nowhere. Nowhere is a safe state where you feel secure. Recognize your sanctuary. I love that Alex Jones just came on and blurted out that we were in Missouri. And
I love it
you know he was laughing the whole time.
Yeah, I was like,
my
what's going
favorite
on
thing.
here?
He was
confused.
like, you're in Missouri. And he was like looking at me smiling. I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
Yes,
he knew what he was doing.
He dox us.
I know. What? Like,
Rude.
but he was laughing.
Yeah.
And he said like 3 times. I'm like, I get it, dude. You can say it. Yeah.
I love it.
So, was it recognize your sanctuary? Nowhere is a safe state.
Yeah, we
Yan
take
says
precautions.
Kissinger's greatest shame was I'll just say what he said. Rape of Bangladesh. The blood cables are America's greatest failure in modern human rights. Yikes.
I don't know much about that.
Gotta look it up.
Timothy Rhodes says, Tim, you're uncensored for YouTube. I've had your song stuck in my head for about 3 weeks now. Even Karma Chameleon won't cure the mind word. Mind word? So when's the album come out? Keep up the great work. Tim, Lydia, Ian, and crew. You guys are awesome.
Yay.
I don't know. I wanted to write a song. So for those that haven't seen it, it's Will of the People. You search for it. It's a short film. It's a song I wrote, and it's a story, and it talks about the cycle of revolution and why these political, like these Antifa commies and it's just like, it never ends. You get a revolution, then you get a revolution, but you should check the song out. Let's see. Maurice says, what does this guy want from Trump? Want him to be perfect? If a president keeps 30% of their promises, that's asking a lot. Trump is just fine.
I could respect that opinion. I just think everyone's feet should be held to the fire, and we should always be critical of politicians instead of celebrating them.
Yep.
Justin Four says in Toronto, they arrested a restaurant owner, sent dozens of cops and mounted police when they walked him out of the building. It's not about the rules. It's a show of force.
And they're still blocking that barbecue place right now. There's police officers parked outside of it, literally making sure the owner can't come back in still today.
John Curry says, Tim, yes, the police in New York City and throughout New York State swear an oath to uphold the United States Constitution. I'm going to call them the oath breakers.
Yeah,
These cops,
yeah.
Not all of them, just the ones who are enforcing this. They're the oath breakers. Michael Roble says, search Trump's quote. This may be the most important speech I've ever made. Yeah, definitely. We got to watch it. It's an hour long. Not a Cop says, Tim, reference police reform. The people would be better served if police chiefs were elected. Most municipalities appoint law enforcement leaders. PDs should totally be accountable, chosen by the people, not elected by city leaders. The problem with cities is that it's too big.
Yeah.
And so a guy runs and says, vote for me, I'm a Democrat. And they go, okay, Democrat. That's how you end up with AOC over and over again. She's not doing anything for her community.
There was a famous New Hampshire anarchist, satanic, trans woman.
Yeah,
that
New Hampshire,
won,
right?
Yeah, I remember
mainly
that.
because she had Republican
Yeah.
at the end of her. She wasn't a Republican; she was an anarchist, but people still
Awesome.
voted for her in the
So much
primaries
respect. It's
because she was
amazing.
yeah. I met her. I was on her show. She's pretty interesting. to say the
And
least.
she said, "Why are you mad? You voted for me."
Yes.
Like, what's the problem? Like, I agree. Like,
Yeah.
if you vote for somebody, you chose to.
What you get?
Yeah, you can't pass off that
She's
responsibility.
also part of the Free State Project in New Hampshire.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Javi J says, I don't always with Tim's guest agree with, but I always appreciate the conversation. No Lydia, no peace.
I'm here.
Anthony Zavarro says, hey Luke, I met you at a Ron Paul rally at Hammerstein Ballroom. I said I was a fan. You said, don't be a fan, be an activist. Keep it up.
Oh,
Look at Luke recruiting and radicalizing people.
Well, people need to be active. I mean, let's stop looking up to people. Let's start looking up to ourselves and being responsible for each other. So,
it's true.
yeah.
JT says the problem with people leaving the cities is they bring that same mindset they have in the city to outside areas that don't need government, then forcing big government policies on independent rural areas.
I didn't. And when you're in the farmland, we could talk about this in the next show. You learn a lot of rough lessons about how crazy life is and how you need to.
Oh, yeah.
You change your mentality by your actions, and that's one of the biggest actions.
These rural areas just need to create like an ordinance where it's like, or like a law local. It's like when you move here, you have to go through a 2-week orientation process for the housing association. And the orientation is we drop you in the middle of the woods and then give you a GPS, figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I like that idea.
That way we know where you are. You won't get lost. You won't die, but figure it out.
Yep. You'll automatically become either an anarchist or a right-wing person.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen the chart explaining how people become liberal, conservative, leftist? It's like get a traumatic injury and it's like socialist. And then it's like
Lose your job. You're liberal.
get a speeding ticket and it's like, conservative,
Libertarian.
libertarian. Yeah. Curtis C says, Ian, check out the video on YouTube, Star Spangled Banner, as you've never heard before. Mona Rose, expand your perspective on bombs bursting in air.
What were the bombs bursting in there that night?
Look up the video.
They were cannon fire.
White Raven says China is following Japan's World War II strategy, taking countries in order to fuel their military and war effort. Japan near succeeded, if not for the U.S. sacrificing many lives. Yep. CTR Lee says China is the reason why people in Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan are rooting for Trump. Certainly is.
It's the CCP, not China. Keep it in mind.
Yeah.
It's that weird government they got.
Keegan DeChesser says, in regard to the China situation, I suggest people read Rising Sun by Michael Crichton. It is eerily similar to how modern-day China is treated by our country. Zach Jacob says, all right, I love you, Ian, but saying the national anthem is indoctrinating kids is nuts, man.
I don't think so. I mean, even the Pledge of Allegiance, you're pledging your allegiance to
I've
this.
always thought that was creepy.
And you never had to say it. They never
America's
forced a
about
kid.
individual freedom. We don't have to pledge. But that is true. When I was a kid, I was like, I'm not doing it. You don't have to do it. It's America. It's a free country,
Peer pressure, though. You kind of do it.
Galandro Glade says, hey, Tim, you should have Chris Chappell from China Uncensored on the show sometime. He does a brilliant job covering China. Would love to. You want to write his name in, I suppose?
Yeah.
He's good. I like his channel.
Sarah says, the reason the Q people were banned by social media is because they've been advocating a global return to the gold standard for the last 30 years. I actually think it's just, well, for one thing, the media was looking for a target to go after people. But a lot of the stuff they talk about is just like, it's always over the top, never happens. It's like some people, look, every story has a morsel of truth, I suppose, when you're dealing with these kind of stories online. But a lot of people just seem to want to live in this world where there's something bigger happening and it's like way more boring. Project Veritas released those CNN tapes. What you learn when you're on these tapes, these big corporate, people, Jeff Zucker's not going, all right, we're going to lie about Trump. Let's lie and say, no, they're just really dumb. They're like, so Donald Trump is racist and today he said something racist. So we're going to lead with that. And it's like, oh, like that's exactly what I assumed they would say. They're just dumb people,
Indoctrination, just, echo chambers.
Michael Tierney says, what happened to your previous guests that said they had a list of compromised Americans that took money from China? They are currently working on that story for Scanner. That was Rocco and Emily. You can check that out. It's scnr.com. And they're continually reporting on that stuff. And yeah. Did you hear that?
No, I did not, but I'm interested. That piqued my interest. I want to definitely take a look at that.
Well, that's Rocco and Emily. That they have a list of potential compromised individuals, like 50,000 people.
Wow. It wouldn't surprise me, especially with police officers being caught spying for China, like we saw in New York City recently.
Because listen, when you're making $30,000 a year as a cop, and then some guy comes along, it's not some Chinese guy. It's a business, a corporation. We want you to consult for us. Here's what we want you to do. Don't you want the money? It's $50,000. That's the name of the game, man. ZFG Cisco says, Ian, read your history on the writing of the Star Spangled Banner before you open your mouth. Proof of our uneducated youth. Ooh, spicy.
Francis Scott Keys. Okay, so are you saying the bombs bursting in the air is not propaganda by that?
He was talking about shooting stars. He was laying in a field of posies, and there were people singing Kumbaya, and he saw shooting stars.
Somebody was getting shelled, right? It was like artillery fire.
I don't know. Yeah, something like that. It's been a long time since I read the history of the national anthem.
But I will read into it. Thank you.
Clay Moore says, I was told in high school in the 90s that communist countries don't make money in warfare, unlike capitalism. Interesting. Mark Conway says, they communist workers / people, but a capitalistic government. They have no wage cost overhead. Capitalistic workers cost 50 cents on the dollar. Communist workers cost 5 cents on the dollar. Wow. All right, let's see. Rosie Riveter says, Luke had me at John Perkins. Great convo. Highly recommend Stealth War by Robert Spalding and The Creature from Jekyll Island. Oh, Jekyll Island.
G. Edward Griffin.
Jekyll Island.
Yeah.
Amazing author, still alive, and he still releases a lot of good work.
Yogi Fish says, hashtag Occupy the Media. Good to see Luke and Tim together again. Oh, yeah.
It's been a while, man.
Well, doing a video together.
Yeah.
For sure. It's been a long time. Yeah. Mr. Tumnus32 says, Tim, I think an interesting person to have is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He has some information regarding the latest vaccine testing, and also has and passed since his uncle was JFK. I know you don't like super chat suggestion, but was unsure where to send it. No, we do. We have to write people down. But
he would be a good guest. I could get you in contact with him.
That'd be cool.
Dustin Rourke says, dude, they are fighting for the schools to open because they just passed a law that you can give kids shots over 11 years old and never have to tell the parents. That's only in Washington, D.C., and that is creepy. Julian Mesta says, hey, Tim, in your opinion, at which point exactly should people actually rise up and overthrow the governor in their state? Great work. I've watched all the live shows. I have no idea. Listen, man, that's why I often complain about myself complaining about stuff, because I don't know. I'm not a political look. I'm not going to be a political leader. I'm a dude complaining about things on the internet. I don't know what else to say. I can tell you this though: the legal system is working, right? The Supreme Court just sided with the religious community in New York City. They can't just do these things. Marshals will come in. There are several states. I think Pennsylvania and Ohio, not Ohio, Pennsylvania. Oh, maybe Ohio and Michigan had Supreme Court rulings against them, and now they can't restart the lockdown process. So they're just complaining about it. There's only so much they can do. The problem is when people get elected like Joe Biden, they get the power, they can start passing laws, and it's going to be bad for everybody. So that's why Georgia is so important. We'll see how things are. We'll see what's happening. We'll see how things play out. Let's see. Kuhn T-Free, I'm not going to read the full name, says, they aren't going to make you take it. They're going to make you want to get it. Well, most people, yeah. And I think, people are, a lot of people are going to be like, I don't care. I'm fine. I don't get flu shots. Whatever.
He's not wrong.
Either.
He's not wrong with what
he's saying. Right. Let's see. Sparky the Pyro says, come on, guys. If you're going to go full conspiracy, go with the vaccine has nanobots that will rewire your brain in supporting authoritarian communism and will make you see Trump as a literal Cheeto.
I love it.
That's a better conspiracy
I think
theory.
Microsoft's working on that one.
Yeah, right.
Luke Howard says, go buy a damn MAGA hat with this, please. But seriously, as a strong Trump supporter, I don't jive with the left or the right. Same end with different means. Ignorance disgusts me. I believe in free will. God himself wills it. Well, I will point out, look, a lot of the things, I'm saying about Trump are to get at Luke and get his ideas on, if you're going to talk about, if we're sitting here having a conversation about how bad Biden and Obama were, then what are we going to say about Donald Trump? Would he be the better president? In my lifetime, Donald Trump is, for one reason, the best president.
What'd you think about Reagan? Oh, wow.
I think I was alive. I was 2 years old. War. Donald Trump, no new wars.
Did Reagan take us to war? I don't remember. I don't think he did.
I'm pretty sure.
He ended.
Maybe you're right.
He ended the Cold War.
When was Iran-Contra?
No, that was Reagan. Yeah,
That
Reagan
was
had Ollie
Jimmy
North.
Carter.
Yeah, that's just pretty bad. Right-wing death squads and bringing in crack cocaine into the United States, making it crack cocaine. That's not a good thing. So,
What was it?
Reagan, Iran-Contra.
Frosted
That
Flame.
was Carter. The Iran-Contra scandal.
It was Reagan. They have the video game. What's the video game with it? Where
Oh, yeah, the
Reagan
most
and like
recent one.
Oliver
Yeah.
North is in it or whatever.
Yes.
Let's see. Frosted Flame says best guest ever. Luke and Tim in the same podcast. I'm freaking out. Been watching both of you since back in 2011, 2012. Much love, you guys.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've known Luke for a decade, and we talk and hang out periodically. You know, Luke's going to New Hampshire and hanging out with the anarchists.
We've been
and
to
the-
some crazy places. We've been in
Fukushima,
Korea,
man, that was
Singapore, Fukushima. Hopefully, we don't get cancer from
Right,
that.
seriously.
Cross your fingers, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, sad story. The woman who led us in Fukushima actually died of cancer.
Yeah, our fixer.
Yep.
But she was going there back and forth a bunch of times. And she even said herself, I remember this one surreal moment. We were all pulling on our little safety suits, these white little robes. And you asked her, why aren't you putting on yours? She's like, oh, I don't plan on having kids. And I was like, holy cow, what are we doing here? Like, this was...
But she was going in and out of the red zone in Fukushima.
Yeah.
And like the radiation was like 200 times background. It was crazy.
And the Japanese government lied a lot about that entire event, as we found out.
The crazy thing was that when the earthquake hit, that this caused the tsunami, we went to this guy's house where time was frozen. The clocks all stopped at the same time.
Yeah.
And the calendars were marked off the same day. And it was like you could see the exact time when the disaster hit. Whoa. It was sad, man. This guy, we went to his house and he was talking about how it was his like traditional ancient family home. And it was just destroyed now.
Yeah, it was surreal.
Crazy. But they've been rebuilding. Things have been improving, you know.
That's not we've been to a bunch of crazy places. But,
Yeah.
Next show, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Kalishnikov says, Tim, would be interested to see some analysis of the Dominion Voting Systems Corporation subsidiary and ownership research that has emerged recently. 20 shell companies later, and you end up in Ukraine and China. It's really crazy stuff for sure. You see that WikiLeaks thing that was going around, the cable from Cablegate?
Nope.
In 2010, WikiLeaks published something called Cablegate. It was diplomatic communications. One of the documents talks about Dominion, and it, no, I'm sorry, it's not Dominion, it's Smartmatic. Talks about Smartmatic and how it was originated in Venezuela and how it was implicated in all these things, and then talks about Sequoia and stuff. So there's interesting stuff there. Not enough that I could that I know about right now to get into detail, but it is interesting nonetheless. Chase Blankenship says, the bombs bursting in air were part of the War of 1812 when Britain was trying to take us back over. It was self-defense. America was strong, hence land of the brave, home of the free.
We killed all those people in self-defense. All the Native Americans, all the British. We killed them all in self-defense, you guys.
Well, the Native Americans, that's
all the Iraqis, all the Afghanistanis.
come on, dude.
It was all self-defense.
The
Don't
British
lump 'em all
British
together.
Empire
I'm joking,
burning down
dude.
the White House. Yeah, but you're in your joke you're comparing like actual U.S. incursions.
We revolted against our government.
Yeah.
How could you say that we were the defenders?
What do you?
We were. I mean, yeah, it was
What
a
do you-
tyrannical government, but we
so you
revolted
mean-
against them. We
you-
started the war.
You mean when they were killing people because they tried taking their guns? We started that. The Boston Massacre. We started the Boston Massacre when the regulars shot and killed all those guys. No, dude, we didn't. And it was fine. Like, and listen, what the colonists did to Native Americans is in my opinion not defensible.
Look, dude, sometimes you got to kill people. That's the lesson that we learned. That's the lesson of human, man.
Unfortunately, I think the answer is yes. I oppose the death penalty for one reason. When you've subdued and contained someone, killing them is unnecessary. But in defense and conflict, these things happen. They're unavoidable.
And an offense in combat.
Why? You can't compare the U.S., the 13 colonies saying, stop coming here, occupying our homes, killing people and getting away with it, and taking from us. We had enough. And then saying we started it. No, dude. If someone's coming to you and bashing you over the head repeatedly and then you fight back, you can't say you started it. It's different than when the media lies and claims there's weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and then we send our soldiers over there for 20 years. That's not okay.
I don't think it is either. I don't think
standing up to a tyrannical government when you're at your house. I'll put it this way: if you go to your neighbor's house and kick the door in, you're the bad guy. If the neighbor comes to your house and is repeatedly just like graffitiing your property and taking your stuff, and you finally say, stop it or else, you didn't start it. You were defending yourself from them attacking you. Get it? All right, let's see. Tilt Rod says, in reference to police reform, I believe we should look at the passing of the future. Please research Sir Robert Peel and his Peelian principles. Okay. Shadow Fenrir says, hail Tim and your guest. You mentioned CNN docs people. I wouldn't be surprised if they try with James O'Keefe in his recent story. Oh, yeah.
They call the cops on him.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, yep.
They released Melania's tapes, phone records, but now they're calling the cops on.
Well, it'll be interesting because the CNN calls were in multiple locations.
Yeah.
So I don't, if he recorded somebody in a two-party consent state, it could cause problems.
Depends who the attorney general is in that state.
Yep. Special Operations Equipment says, this show would be better without Ian always interrupting and sidetracking. Well, I disagree.
I like Ian.
I disagree. You've had good ones. I think you're the most controversial.
The problem is I'm in censor mode right now.
I think any kind of I think that conversation is important for the show. We're not going to sit here and just me and Luke high five each other all day. You know, like we need conversation. It's the point of it.
It's a unique point of view, and we need more of those as much as possible.
Indeed.
Brandon Tom says, holy hell, 2 separate wars, Revolutionary and 1812. Wow. Dave says, Tim, check out the documentary Hacking Democracy. You can find it on YouTube right now. It's 1 hour and 20 minutes long. It was made years ago. Interesting. AF says, Ian should watch John Adams' 2008. You ever see The Patriot with Mel Gibson?
That was a good movie.
That movie's so good.
Yeah.
I bring it up all the time because I've watched it recently.
I'm fatigued, man. I apologize to people that are listening. I've been pissy tonight. I've been pissy like for the last week, but I'm so effing exhausted with this BS of Trump, of this insane people obsessed with the political system like it's God and
not being responsible for themselves.
Freaking exhausting. And so I'm holding it together, and I really care about, obviously, you guys. You, some of my best
I'll give you
friends.
some ashwagandha afterwards, and we'll meditate.
Yeah.
Everything will be fine.
We built a rain barrel system. Yeah.
Nice.
So we're almost completely off the grid. We're working on it.
Give me a knife. I'll be in the middle of the woods. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
So
I think people need to
get back to nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's
understand.
a huge key.
This is what I always tell people. Like, if you're in the middle, if you're in the middle of the woods and you're bug naked, but you're holding a pointy stick, you're better than nothing. You're like 1 point towards like good. If you're in the middle of the woods bug naked and you have nothing, that's base. That's 0. Now, if you're in the middle of the woods bug naked and you're bleeding, now you're negative. So anything in your life where you're complaining, it's like, just think about, you could be in the middle of the woods bug naked. That's like the natural state of humans in like the savannah or like whatever. And you need a community to survive and you have limited technology. You should really watch that. You ever watch Ancient Technologies guy?
No.
He like builds mud huts in the woods and stuff, and like he creates like water capture systems.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, so cool. But
primitive technology.
Primitive technology.
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
I think it's hilarious how people are just like, you have so many people who complain about everything, and it's like, bro, you got air conditioning, you got a refrigerator, you got clean running water, and you can walk onto any street corner and say the word cheeseburger, and you say it enough, eventually someone will be like, I got you a cheeseburger, bro, and they'll give you one. Isn't that crazy?
We're absolutely spoiled in the first world. Our major concern is not having enough Wi-Fi. It's absolutely insane. And when you travel the world, if you go to places like the Philippines and India, you're going to get a rude awakening to how the world really is. And no one really knows.
Brazil, go to the favelas, man.
Yeah, I was there too. It's totally different than what we have now.
Ladies and gentlemen, Luke will be back Friday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, right on. So, what's your you want to shout out?
My main YouTube channel is We Are Change. I am not in the partner program. I am fully demonetized. Could be because of the Eric Schmidt confrontation, but whatever. I started doing survival courses to offset.
Pretty cool.
To make sure I could survive as an individual. I did a couple in New Hampshire. If I know anyone with a gun range in the D.C. area, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, or if I know any crazy veterans, contact me. I would love to work with some of you guys. I worked with an amazing Special Forces Green Beret in New Hampshire that trained me half of the year, and all of these crazy things that I want to share about self-reliance, responsibility, being out there with just the knife. You could do it. Anything's possible. Check me out on twitter.com/Luke We Are Change at Luke We Are Change.
Right on. And Luke will be back for the sequel Friday. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Parler at Timcast. Check out my other YouTube channels, youtube.com/Timcast and youtube.com/TimcastNews. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Also, make sure you check us out on iTunes and Spotify and those other podcast platforms. Subscribe, leave some good comments. It really helps the channel grow. When you go to like iTunes and you're like 5 stars, these people are the best, then, you know, that helps us because more ratings means, you know, higher approval or whatever, the more people can see it. All that stuff really helps. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit that like button, come back, and don't forget to follow Ian.
Yeah, do follow me at Ian Crossan and find yourself.
No, what you should do, if all the
Find
people that
love.
have any issue with what he was saying, you can tweet at him. So follow him and then tweet at him.
Tweet at me. That's what I want.
Bring it
That's what I want. And you can follow Sour Patch Lids.
Can. I'm over here in the corner pushing buttons. LYDS.
We will be back tomorrow. I think we don't really announce the guests in case people cancel or whatever, but it's going to be like a funny.
It might be spicy.
It's going to be spicy, I guess.
Interesting.
I don't know if it will be, but we're gonna have we have a good guest coming.
Nice.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Before you go into the YouTube search bar and search for Will of the People Timcast. Check out the song. It's fun. You'll enjoy it. It's a short film, so you really got to watch and pay attention. There's Easter eggs in it and everything. And you'll really like it. I believe you will. So thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Bye, guys.